So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na pembe.
Nini umba special.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nyeri.
It's the 1st of December. How are we starting off this month in terms of how traffic is looking on the roads this morning? A little bit of it on Mombasa Road heading out into the city, but not too terrible. Right around that Imaradaima stretch is where you'll see a spot of traffic, but it doesn't get too bad as you then go further. Out towards North Airport Road, that's still clear and free, and we're looking at the Eastern Bypass as a quick escape into the city if you don't want to be burdened with what might be going on Mombasa Road later. Where we're seeing more traffic this morning is coming out of Westlands. Not to forget, use the Red Hill Link Road, and that will get you out into the city much faster. Pangani is already building up as well, but the Thika Superhighway doesn't look too bad right about now. Into the CBD, clear and free as well. Hopefully it stays that way for a little bit longer. Have you not left yet? Now might be a good time. Have you left already? Be careful. Parts of the road still slippery because of intermittent rains, so just take it easy. So if you're thinking about leaving, now might be a good time because we know it's going to pack up in about an hour or so. But we'll keep an eye on things for you. Let us know what it looks like in your neck of the woods. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's December. It is December, believe it or not. City Muga, It's December.
I mean, listening to you, my brother,
be positive.
There's a certain lively note in your tone, an implication that you have just told me something wonderful and that I should join you in your joy, isn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, can't. December.
Don't be negative.
I'm not being negative because December without fail is followed by January, and January,
January
is 3 months
January.
rolled into one.
That's why now you forget about January and focus on December.
Actually, I can't.
Ndu,
Yes.
it's December.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me.
Oh, they begin today.
No, later. I'm just doing dress rehearsal.
Oh, this is it, eh?
This is it.
It's December.
And your baby said what? See, I thought you said on the first day of Christmas, your baby said something.
See, baby, Okoh. See, baby, true love. Okay, it's the same thing.
See me, baby.
What did I just say? Should I use a phrase that you're perhaps more familiar with? Okay, what did Toto say?
Let me keep quiet, I beg.
Baby. Welcome to December, everybody, and welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room, on this first day of December. Only 30 days, and we are in 2022. Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like that. But between now and then, don't think about January. You just ponder raha. Kula mali.
I personally, in my capacity, as Charles T. Muga, no way.
Not happening.
These are some of the pitfalls of having lived a little longer.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing over
You stop living.
and over.
No. City, live.
I remember many years ago.
Our colleague, Combox, walked in.
When I lived in Mombasa. I also happened to be a member of a club called Mombasa Sports Club. And membership, well, should we say, gave you the privilege of credit. December, bills were never sent in December. At the end of December, end of January.
They know.
Oh, they understood. They knew that between this December here, people are going to get a bit hectic.
Yeah.
And you don't need to stress. It's a members club after all. And every member is a shareholder. So let's trust them at the end of January. Now, I have never taken that thought away from my thinking. For me, December means January. I remember in October we were saying, in fact, we got to September, we were saying, guys, this year is over.
Yep.
And we were saying it like the way Kenyans do, like a joke or like a game. Come on, cheers.
Come on, cheers.
And here we are.
Indeed, here we are. Well, we'll discuss many things this morning. Just keep it right here for those. But let's begin with COVID-19 in numbers.
Okay.
What's happening?
Sure. Been a minute since we looked at what's happening on the local scene. Looking at the numbers, positivity rates have been pretty low in Kenya, which is good. In terms of vaccines, those have been increasing. We did see a more consignment of more vaccines coming into the country, now at 12,447,020. Those are the vaccines that have been made available in Kenya. Of those, 7,063,927 have been administered. So we're looking at about 5 million vaccines available across the country, and we see more and more collaborations to get more people vaccinated. Are we going to hit 10 million by December 30th, 31st? Well, probably not. But still, it remains. Please get this first form of defense or protection against COVID-19. All right, so what are we looking at in terms of infections around the country? 109 new cases is what we saw over the last 24 hours from a sample size of 4,994. Positivity rate rises just slightly to 2.2%, seeing as we've been under 1% for the last 4 weeks or so, 3 weeks there. 10 recoveries and 1 recorded death over the last 30 days. So the numbers are not looking too bad. However, a slightly higher positivity rate than we've seen in the last couple of weeks. That's what we're looking at. If we just look at what's happening around the globe, numbers continue to rise, realizing and understanding that, guys, we are the other side of the world is in the winter months, so colder. We've seen an increase of about 3 million cases globally in the last 2 weeks. And contributory factor would be the central to western European states. 263,035,743. That's what we're looking at in terms of infections. Still, questions asked, why are scientists worried about the new variant? So many bans here and there. And still, in all of this, a lot of nations still remain under lockdown. That's what's going on around the world. It still continues.
Okay. We are live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you are online, say hello to us. Say Happy December. And we'll be saying Happy December to you. Just be nice. Another part of Christmas. It's 6:15. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the
We're looking at
latest
cloudy
clips from
conditions in
adults
Nairobi. High chance of rain early this morning as it was missing last night. Currently at 15 degrees at a good highs of 23 and lows of 14. Nakuru is partly cloudy at 14, highs of 24 and lows of 13. Nyeri cloudy at 13, highs of 23 and lows of 13. Eldoret is clear at 14, highs of 23, lows of 13 today. We're looking at mostly sunny conditions and early rise in Mombasa, 25, highs of 32 and lows of 24. While in Malindi, mostly sunny at 26, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Kisumu is cloudy at 20, highs of 28 and lows of 19. And in Kakamega, cloudy conditions at 17, highs of 29 and lows of 16. Kampala is clear at 21, highs of 24 and lows of 18, while it's raining in Dar es Salaam at 25. It'll go to highs of 30 and lows of 24. Looking at clear conditions in Johannesburg, highs of 27 and lows of 15, while in Lagos it's clear at 26, highs of 33 and lows of 25. Rain showers in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 29 and lows of 23. Let's look out east into Beijing where it's sunny at 6. We'll see highs of 8 and lows of a glorious -4. While in Paris, it's mostly clear at 10, slightly warmer than yesterday, highs of 11 and lows of 3. Partly cloudy conditions in London at 11. 11 is what it's going to be in London, lows of 11, highs of 11, and it's currently at 11. Cloudy conditions at 6 in New York. It's still Tuesday night. Coming into Wednesday, we'll see highs of 6 and lows of 4.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
It's 18 minutes after
94.4.
6 on the 1st of December. Who's online?
Langy Ziegler says hello and tuned in this morning from Miami. Well, greetings to you in Miami. Happy new month, guys. Tuning from Mogadishu. Did you hear Kenya is the 6th wealthiest country in Africa?
Yeah.
In papers, but on reality, in
Kenya's
the
what?
let me start again. According to Namswa Elisha, who's tuning from Mogadishu, he says, "Did you hear Kenya is the sixth wealthiest country in Africa on paper, but in reality, about position 30."
What reality is that, Buena? We are number 6.
Okay, so I'll check where to
Leave us alone.
Leave us alone. All right. Robert Mbogo says good morning from Mombasa. Amos Freeman, Kimilili Nico Iko Ndani, your birthday is coming up on Christmas Eve. Well, happy birthday in advance. Good morning, good people. So yesterday the president stopped all campaigns and concentrated on M&E reporting. That should be the norm.
Sorry?
Okay, so Stanley says yesterday all campaigns were stopped.
Who stopped them?
The president, by giving his, state of the nation. M&E is what Stanley chooses to call it, monitoring and evaluation of what's been going on in the country. The state of the nation. Mohammed Mo is
It's December.
It's December. Just let it go. Let it go. Let it
You
go.
want to take a deep breath?
Yes. Who else?
Namibia, that's where Mohammed is watching from, and Nakuru City is where Cyprian Mora is. Narok East is tuned in, and Sam Zyoka says Machakos is locked. Good to be here. Good to have you in the room this morning. Vincent Ogutu says, Happy New Month, guys. And Alex Jami says, good morning as well. Good to have you guys in the room this morning. Karibuni sana.
Everybody, good morning, City. The December proverb.
Yes. Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
Yes.
Okay.
Why are you running? So
So here the
can't
assumption-
put shoes on for somebody who's already running. Or you can't ask somebody who's already running to put on his shoes.
While the person is in the process of
Or already running, you can't put on his shoes. Yeah. You could try.
Mtu
slow
anayekimbia
down.
can also be a runner.
Yes. It is hoped
Why
that
are you running?
if you run with shoes, the shoes will be on your feet when you start running.
That was the assumption.
Yes, but once you start running and you are in the process of running, it becomes a fairly tall order for you to have
For someone to put shoes on you.
Yes.
But why are you running without shoes? Anyway, so
But most people run without shoes. You
It
know,
is
this
true.
issue of shoes and running.
it's a new concept.
Well, new as in somewhere in the middle of the previous centuries. When
Indeed.
it became, but people, even in school, people ran barefooted.
It's true.
It's not important.
I do.
You don't need the shoes to run. You need feet.
Yeah. So you choose wisely.
It's a fair.
Asante sana kwa methali ya siku. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. Do you have access to the Standard e-paper? You can get access to the Standard e-paper, standardmedia.co.ke, and you get access for 20 shillings. The physical paper is 60 bob. The e-paper is 20 bob. Okay? And you have access to all the content that's in the papers. In the headlines, it's, of course, the state of the nation. So start, Ndu.
I start with the state of the nation.
Yeah.
Judge me by this, is what your president said yesterday. He highlighted the successes of his tenure, like tarmac roads, electricity connectivity, jobs created, school enrollment, and health facilities in the State of the Nation address. But there was a lot that came out as of this. It's been called monitoring and evaluation, and that the State of the Nation by the president yesterday, the State of the Nation address by the president yesterday was not actually the state of the nation. But let's look at what this story says. 9 years at the helm, Uhuru scores and regrets. He accuses again the judiciary of subverting the will of the people for rejecting law change. Healthcare, education and housing among sectors. Head of state says his government has scored well. He fell short of saying the country will live to regret turning down the Building Bridges initiative, a joint project of himself and ODM leader Raila Odinga. In a speech that largely spelt out the progress the country had made during his tenure, Uhuru said his government had also tried to solve the issue of political stability by suggesting amendments to the 2010 constitution. He accused the judiciary of subverting the will of the people by finding the attempt to amend the constitution was illegal. He said, "We went to the people and 5 million Kenyans agreed to initiate the process of putting the first amendment to the 2010 constitution to a vote." And so he said forever that would have been subverted. He went on and talked about...
Said the very many things that we have done. One of them is that when he took over office, Kenya was number what? 13 in Africa.
And
now
number 6.
we're number 6 in Africa. Huh? Our economy has grown from about a mere 3 trillion to 11 trillion GDP. It's a big thing.
He talked about certain projects, obviously, that he had initiated with the help of others. One of them being the KMC issue, whereby now they're turning over 1 million shillings a day and 3-point-something billion a year, and whereby you're churning out 8,000 shillings a day. And this is a
So how does
decision
1 million become 3 billion?
1 million per day.
Become 3 billion a year?
Yes.
It's even more.
How?
Multiplied
How many
by
days do we have in a year?
365.
365.
1 times 365?
365.
So how does that become 3 billion?
This is where you have to use your imagination.
Yes, just imagine that it can be 3 billion and it will be. Just imagine.
Oh.
Eric, did you, when you were in school, the lessons in which they taught maths, were you present for all of them?
Yes.
So you don't know how 365 million can
it's a
be 3
basic.
billion?
You haven't heard of the multiplication process.
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
There has to be a formula.
There is a formula.
another thing that he
1
did talk
times 365.
It's 3 billion.
still remains million in your books. All right. So if you look at some of the things that he did highlight and said, look, but from when I was, coming into office, formal jobs created. In 2013, there were 2.2 million. 2021, 2.7 million. Taxes collected, 779 billion in 2013. 1.56 trillion in 2021. 4.7 trillion, size of the economy in 2013. 11 trillion in 2021. 90,000 GDP per capita in 2013, 220,000 2021, 45.9 debt as of percentage of GDP was 45%. Now it is 68%. Total budget, which is another thing that has gone up clearly, 1.1 trillion in 2013, 3.03 trillion in 2021. one of the things that he harped on was the kilometers of tarmac road. 11,230 kilometers had been done in 2013. In 2021, 21,700 kilometers of tarmac road. Electricity production, 1,300 megawatts in 2013. 2,000, so a doubling of that in 2021, and on and on. One of the things he also talked about was education. 100% transition, primary school education.
Right.
100%. Leave alone whether infrastructure was adequate or, capacity to do certain things was adequate, hiring of teachers and such. But look, on the face of it, according to him, the state of the nation, thumbs up.
Some of those things that you were saying, on the face of it, actually, they're good.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
And some of them are factual. If you're talking about the number of kilometers of roads, it's an extra 10,000 kilometers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're talking about electricity generation, it has gone to 2,000 megawatts. Okay. However, he had promised to take it to 5,000 megawatts. So he should have talked about our initial plan was 5,000 megawatts. However, we've only done 2,000 megawatts. We revised because we saw there's no demand and blah, 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 blah. And why is there no demand? What had you projected the demand to be? All those things. Now, on the issue of education, there's something that he said which was quite telling, that in the next 8 years or so, about 40% of Kenya's population will be school going. Okay? A large percentage of our population will be in schools. We're talking about all this transition. He did not say what they are going to do to expand the infrastructure to accommodate 40% of Kenya's population in schools.
That will be in school.
Because that is critical. If we look now and say how many new schools have been built, he did not talk much about how many new schools have been built when he was in office. He's talked about how many new teachers have been employed, how many new teachers are graduating, how many new ABC. The number of actual new schools from scratch that have been built, it's an issue to consider. And it's a big issue if you're projecting that you're going to have a huge percentage of your population in school.
And especially when you consider that our number one foreign exchange earner is hinged on human resource.
Yes.
It's called remittances.
Yes.
So, surely, does it not tell you that this is the one sector? We talk about agriculture, and we should. We talk about commerce, and we should. But this is the one sector that guarantees the country an income that ordinarily it wouldn't have. Surely, an investment in this sector, beginning from the very, very roots, should this not be at the center of your conversation?
Right, in terms of what you should be looking to do.
If you're talking about the future and you're talking about the welfare of the nation,
Yep.
the state of the nation as it is fine, stable. The state of the nation going forward is hinged on this 40%.
Yep.
So what are we doing to ensure that by the time they get to decision-making positions, they have the appropriate structure and tools to be able to do what is necessary?
They ought to have that ready for them. We'll have this conversation of looking at what the President State of the Nation address was saying and whether we agree with that state. His State of the Nation is our State of the Nation.
Is it the state of the nation?
Is that the State of the Nation? According to everybody. As we do that, remember you have access to Showmax. Showmax is this video on demand platform which allows you to get access to all the videos, the movies, back-to-back seasons, documentaries, children's programming, exclusive show premieres before the rest of Africa, and original content featuring favorite stars. Now, with Showmax, you can get Showmax subscribed onto 5 devices. You can choose your TV, your mobile phone, your child's mobile phone, your other mobile phone, your spouse's mobile phone, city's mobile phone, and you can even sambaza to somebody who not everybody needs to know who they are, but kuna mtu mwingine anasaidia pale nje, their mobile phone. People don't need to know exactly who that is, right? So if they have access to all that content, you can just choose a plan that you want to go for. Either Showmax Mobile, catch up your favorites through your phone, Showmax Pro, you get live sports streaming of all major leagues, music and news channels, and Showmax Pro Mobile. All that. We'll be telling you more about it as the show continues. It's 6:30, time for us to take a break. Let's take a look at the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Entertainment at your fingertips, in your home, wherever you need it. That's the Showmax promise. Join me, Orlando Mulo and DJ Absolute, on Sugar and Spice from 11 a.m. every weekday to learn about all the movies, documentaries, TV shows, sports, and music that Showmax has to offer, including how you can get yourself a 1-month free subscription this Black Friday. Showmax is all you need this festive season, and we'll tell you why.
Okay, it's 6:30. What does it look like on the roads this morning? Not too bad, actually. Still trying to see how we'll get through traffic today. Mombasa Road, a little bit of it going towards the city, and it's already building up there. Just that little nook at Imaradaima as you head in and outbound, and then going towards North Airport Road, then past the Embakasi stage, we have some traffic then heading then towards Pipeline, and then out towards the Donholm Railway Station is where we'll see some traffic as well. Jogger Road also building up. Langata Road was a thing even before it was a thing, so that still continues. Bagathi Way is looking clear for now, so there's an option for you. Uhuru Highway, not a problem now, but it definitely will build up, and that is for sure when we get into traffic hour. So the Kamkunji roundabout spilling over onto Haile Selassie, we're seeing some a little bit of traffic there. Now, when you woke up this morning, Thika Superhighway, there was nothing. Right now, in about 3 minutes, everything changed, and there's traffic bumper to bumper all the way past Survey this morning, and it's building up on Kiambu Road as well. To be expected. Let's see what happens through the morning. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. We want to keep things moving this Wednesday.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right.
94.4.
7 minutes to 7. City, it's World AIDS Day.
Every single year.
On the 1st of December.
It is marked.
It's marked as World AIDS Day. The Standard today has some coverage on World AIDS Day. It says HIV at 40, the long journey from darkness to life. And basically just tracking the progress that has been made in the fight against the pandemic of HIV in numbers and figures. And saying in May 1981, 5 sexually active homosexuals in Los Angeles, USA were found to have a rare form of lung infection called pneumocystis carinii, or PCP pneumonia, in 3 different San Francisco hospitals. By that December, this number had shot to 275 across America, with 121 dead, some from an aggressive form of cancer called Kaposi sarcoma. And by January 1982, whispers were coming in from Uganda about a similar wasting disease that locals nicknamed Slim. By the time Bruce Springsteen sang about Slim in his 1993 song Streets of Philadelphia, the whole world knew about HIV. And now here we are. City, have we made significant progress as a country?
We have.
In the fight against HIV?
Oh man, have we just. In fact, for me, the yardstick that indicates the progress you allude to is that we no longer talk about HIV as a threat. We no longer talk about it in hushed tones. It's something that is mentioned. It's almost gotten to the point where you talk about it in the same tone as you talk about malaria. We haven't gotten there yet. But that the stigma associated with HIV has reduced. It has not been eliminated, but has been reduced significantly. That is something to celebrate. That people know that being HIV positive is not a certification of definite and impending death. is in itself a huge stride. That you are able to get the treatment that you require should you be HIV positive is a huge stride forward. That you are able to actually have medication that can help you, that can prevent the onset of HIV, the prophylaxis treatment. That in itself is huge progress. There is still the fight that is still continuing, because in the microbicide world, there's been continuing research as to how you can actually have microbicide products that can help prevent HIV. A lot of the research has been with the field of how it is you can arm women. Now the question you ask is, why women? Well, women, scientifically it has been proved, were always at the greatest of risk in the acquisition of HIV. And that has nothing to do with something, well, immediately someone's mind may go to, is it what they do? No. It is how they're built. It's how they're manufactured. It is how their body is. They are more likely to get infected than men are. So you ask me the question, have we made strides? We've made enormous strides. But a word of caution here. Whenever something that was once horrific becomes normalized, people take it for granted. And in the same way that people have abused antibiotics, many people have since felt it's this attitude and this thinking about medicine that we have. Medicine is when you're not feeling well. When you feel better, you stop taking the medicine. And yet that is not how you take antibiotics. That's not how you take antiretrovirals. If you are on the drug, you keep taking it. There are non-communicable diseases that also have the same sort of situation. If you are diabetic, there are certain things that you must do, okay? If you're hypertensive, you'll be told there's certain medication that you must continue taking. Now, it just so happens that what they do is they help your body normalize so that your body can function as best as it can. People sometimes even forget that HIV still exists. It does. It's just not talked about as it was, but it does. Does it still cause the same problem it did before? Yes, it does. So, Eric?
Have we made significant strides in the fight against stigma?
We have, but not enough. We have made huge strides, but I am saying that the strides are inadequate.
Right.
Not yet enough.
No, but also there's something that has always bothered me about the concept of stigma. What has bothered me is we talk about eliminating it, but if I look at human nature as it actually is in its rawest form, one of the things that we love as human beings is to be able to find things that, one, we find indistinguishable, difficult to explain, and then we love to have this pet view of understanding things in a way that pleases us. Something happens, nobody sees it as it is. There is some exterior logic that you will apply to understanding it. It is raining. It just rains, okay? Now, have you had situations where it rains on one spot and just a kilometer away, there's no rain?
Yeah.
It is a phenomenon that can be explained. But what do we like to do? Throw a little magic into it.
Of course.
Giving birth or something.
Yes. Throw a little magic into it. From time immemorial, mankind has always had this ability to anything you don't fully understand, you throw in a little extraterrestrial meaning to it. Yes. Now, so long as that is within our gambit, my friend, stigma will never really go away. But what we can do is to continue fighting it.
Indeed.
Yes, we must. We must.
Crazy story yesterday that came out. We saw on the news about a gentleman who is being described in this story in the Standard as a recluse who suspected to have killed his family, was shunned by his parents. Kathata village in Kabera ward in Kirinyaga East sub-county yesterday woke up to the tragic news of a father who wiped out his family of 5 before attempting to kill himself. Clearly did not succeed. According to neighbors, the 35-year-old Paul Murage, who allegedly abused and sold bang as he had a tumultuous relationship with his 38-year-old wife. It all ended tragically Sunday night when Murage allegedly killed his wife Millicent Muthoni, daughter Nelly Wawera, 13, and Sheromit Waboi Muthoni, 5, and sons Gifton Bundi Muthoni 7 and Clifton Joke Murage 1. According to Murimi Dambiri, the area chief, Muthoni was an ardent churchgoer and had 3 children when he got married to Murage. The 1-year-old could be the only child she had with Murage, who turned himself in at the Kianyaga police station on Monday after apparently spending the night in a house where the lifeless bodies of his spouse and his children lay. The scene of the murder, a 3-bedroom brick-walled shack with a detached shed used as a kitchen, signified the gruesome killing of the 5. The 2 beds in the rooms had multiple axe blows, splintered wood, spattered with brain matter and blood. What is surprising is that the compound is just 40 meters away from his parents' house, but they told the police that they did not hear any commotion, perhaps due to the heavy rains that night. It was not until the suspect walked to the Kianyaga police station at around 9 p.m. Monday that his neighbors suspected something was amiss. Murage handed over 2 packages of bang to the police, who promptly arrested him. He told the police that he had not come to turn himself in over bang, and allegedly confessed that he had killed his family. Police went to the village yesterday morning and found everything as was described by Murage. According to the neighbors, the husband was shunned by all in the village, including his parents and siblings. This was obviously previously. Sometimes he would not even respond to your greetings, as we generally kept off his path. Villagers said it seemed Muthoni had a premonition about her death and kept telling her friends not to cry when she is killed by her husband. Neighbors believed that the woman had stayed in the abusive marriage for the sake of her children. So now we see allegedly all 5 of them gone. 4 children and a spouse. Kirinyaga East Sub-County OCPD Anthony Mbogo said the police found several cans of pesticides and a T-shirt that the suspect had covered the bodies with. The bodies were on beds and had multiple cuts to the head. A slasher suspected to be one of the weapons used was found at the home. The police were led to a nearby river where Murage had told them he had disposed of the killer axe, but it had been found as of yesterday. It had not been found as of yesterday.
So he used an axe and slasher.
Yes.
The story in The Nation says that neighbors had heard commotion that evening, and the allegation is that the man had attempted to defile his 13-year-old daughter. And then the wife had said, no, don't do it. And he snapped, killed all of them, and took off. So neighbors say that they basically knew that he was a bang guy.
Yeah, and there's the allegation that he was not, completely stable mentally. And that, he was quiet. Most times when they would greet him previously, he would not answer.
And then
he had
move
been
away
shunned
from
by
you.
his parents previously. So they kind of saw that he was
no
a little
reason
bit
is
off.
given as to why he is shunned.
No.
If we take the view that he had a mental health condition that couldn't be connected to the cannabis that it is being alluded he partook of, why would he be shunned? There are many people in society, in many communities, who have mental health issues. They're not shunned.
No, they're not.
No.
The reasons as to why this happened are not given here.
Yes,
Yeah.
but why do you think these things are called mind-altering substances? Somebody keeps to themselves, is a recluse, keeps quiet, doesn't say much, lives in the world of his own. That's what these drugs do. Cannabis specifically.
Puts you in a world of your own.
It does it, and it allows you to live there. So the issue of facing your reality, Eric, you mentioned stigma early on, right? One of the things that people don't actually often relate to stigma is the effect it has on the person who is being stigmatized. When you're shunned, what do you think that has happened? You've been stigmatized.
Yes.
So how does a stigmatized person
React.
How do they respond?
How does a wounded
they
animal
feel-
respond?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're constantly under that pressure.
They are. And they are aware. So every look that somebody has will have a negative thing as far
Yes.
as they are concerned.
Yes.
Now you tell me, somebody who is in that state of mind, is it difficult for them to be antisocial? No. Because they feel people don't like me. So in response, why should I
I'm going to
like
stay
them?
on my own.
You know,
But then what could have triggered this particular incident here?
anything could have triggered it. Anything could have triggered it. It just
After so
happened.
many years.
Anything could have triggered it. And the time it could have been triggered, nobody can even pretend to understand how. They're saying this situation triggered it. No. This was a ticking time bomb just waiting to go off.
The other
Ticking
time, you were
bomb.
talking about the community.
Yes.
In this particular case, do you still want to say about community?
Yes.
What do you say about the community? I mean, so here is a man, he has a family, they've lived, he has a 13-year-old child. That means there is a marriage that's over 13 years old.
Yes.
And other children.
Yes.
What could the local community have done?
One of the things that they could have done, my friend, is what many other people in similar situations do. They could have made sure this guy is taken to hospital. See, the problem with this story, it isn't complete. Maybe he had even been taken to hospital.
Maybe.
By the time your family shuns you, there must have been things that have happened over time that they've decided, you know something?
By the time your family shuns you and the whole village knows.
Everybody knows.
Yeah.
But I'm always saying the family shunned him, and yet...
That's the report.
Yeah. He married. He had a wife and children.
He lived
They were
40
living-
meters away from
From his parents.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's still within the same community.
Yes.
Even if people are not, would say hello to him, and the people are saying hi to him, he's the one who's not responding.
Yes.
He's still a recognized member of the community.
Yes.
Let me explain something to you. You may, in any community, as we're talking, I'm trying to picture the community I belong to. And I'm trying to picture people who I know have been stigmatized by society and how they respond. In fact, that's what's going on in my mind right now. So long as they believe they have been shunned, it is not a question of what you think you are doing. They remain shunned. So even that greeting, you think you are greeting that person. As far as they're concerned, you are laughing at them.
Yeah.
You're making fun of them.
Mocking.
You're precisely. Okay? Now, we do not know what this person did in life. We do not know how he got to the state that he's in. There's so much we do not know. The only thing that we do know is that something must have happened for his family to take the position that they did. Families don't go around giving up on their own that easily. Something must have happened. But that having been said, the real subject of discussion in my mind is how we understand mental health and how we understand the things that ought to be done when we suspect or even when we know that somebody has a mental health condition.
And that's a scary thing. Because majority of people do not know what to do when presented with that
Yeah.
situation. What do you do? What's your first, action? What are you supposed to do? Many people do not even know what they are being presented with. How many people, for example, have children who are autistic or have children who have ADHD
Yep.
and do not even know what it is until much later? Right? And I've taken the view, just like you alluded to before, have taken the view that this child is cursed
Just
or
problematic.
bewitched or something, or is just a difficult child. And there's an imbalance there that if attended to in the proper manner, can actually be sorted out.
You see,
or at least managed.
What it points to is the stigmatization and the consequential effect of what it has on people. Don't like to deal with such situations. They don't. Why? The stigma attached to it. Now, when someone doesn't want to deal with the situation, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to find every reason possible, every reason available for them to explain away their role in trying to help. See, when you get malaria, people, there's no stigma attached to malaria because we already attached the malaria to the mosquito. There's no problem. When we talk about a sexually transmitted illness, there's stigma attached to it. Yes. Why? Because there's sex attached to it.
Yeah.
HIV, the reason why HIV was such an issue was because of the sex component in HIV.
Yeah.
Forget the being shaved and sharing needles. Put that story aside. No. It is the sex issue.
Right.
And it's something that we have difficulties talking about. Anything that we have difficulties forcing, that situation is tailor-made for stigma. Tailor-made. Now, if people don't like to talk about mental health, remember, a family member who is errant, an embarrassment to the family, start there, okay? Gets married, you think things will be okay. Again, you think the stigma goes away? It never really does. Because anything that you're uncomfortable facing directly. What you're looking at is a tailor-made situation for stigma.
There you have it.
I have two court stories now that we're talking about this particular kind of cases of murder. Okay, one is where a court has upheld a life sentence for a man who battered his wife and attempted to kill her 13 years ago. David White's appeal was dismissed for the second time by Court of Appeal judges Wanjiru Karanja, Patrick Kiage, and Jamila Mohammed. He'll continue serving the life sentence that he was slapped with in 2016 after he was found guilty of attempting to kill his wife, Rhoda Wairimu, by severely hacking her head and hands, leading to amputation. The particulars of this offence stated that White attempted to kill his wife by hacking her several times in Muthui Estate in Karatina in 2008. Wairimu told the court that her husband attacked her using a machete, hacking her head and severing her arms in the presence of their child. The attack led to her arms being surgically amputated. She lost consciousness and was hospitalized for almost 3 months. The minor told the court that after the incident, his father closed the door, leaving behind his bleeding mother. He also refused to heed to pleas to open the door and help their mother, according to the child. A clinical officer who attended to Wairimu testified that on examination, the complainant had multiple injuries, including a fractured skull with part of the brain visible, and that the upper limbs were amputated because of the injuries. Because of that, the High Court has sentenced the man to life. He appealed. The Court of Appeal has said, life is, this is it. Okay? Another story. Now, in 2013, there was a young lady called Lensa Anyango, and she was in a relationship with a young man called Kevin Abich. Lensa has a brother called Joseph Otieno. Abich has a brother called Geoffrey Onyango. So on this one day, Geoffrey Onyango takes his brother Kevin Abich to go and see his girlfriend, Lensa Anyango. He accompanies the guy to meet the girlfriend, finds her at her home next to her brother's house. The brother is Joseph Otieno. According to Geoffrey Onyango, the brother, Lensa ushered them into her Otieno's house, and shortly afterwards the door was locked from the outside and the three started assaulting the gentleman. The three are Lensa Anyango, Joseph Otieno, and Martin Ouma. Onyango, the brother, claims he kicked the door open. He didn't. He ran to inform his father of what was happening. They came back, they found Abich lying in a tobacco farm with deep cuts. He had been killed and his hands severed as a crowd milled around him. Get the story? Onyango takes Abich to go and see Lensa. Lensa ushers Abich into Otieno's house. Otieno, Ouma, and Abich and Anyango are said to have started attacking the man. Onyango runs to their father's home. They come back, they find the man has been killed and his hands cut off. Now, the three were taken to court, and the High Court had actually found them guilty.
Including Lensa?
Yes. Martin Ouma, Joseph Otieno, and Lensa Anyango had been found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment. They appealed. Now, the Court of Appeal, Justices Asike Mahandia, Fatuma Sichale, and Kantai Ole Sankale, have reduced that from life to 30 years in jail. But they have confirmed the conviction. They've said, yes, you are guilty. Only that we are reducing this from life to 30 years in jail.
And the circumstances, are they indicated as to why they felt they could reduce this the sentence?
No.
It's not, huh?
Yes.
Because I'm sure they must have looked at something.
They must have looked at some prevailing circumstances here that led them to decide, okay, yeah, not life, but 30 years is good enough for you. This is the life we're leading. What are you looking at, CT?
I'm looking at something, it's on County Standard on page 24. Family of missing witness in DP Ruto's ICC case keeps hope alive. The story is about a certain Jonah Kipngetich, who was to testify against DP and journalist William Sang, but reportedly withdrew from the case before he disappeared 6 years ago. Okay? His son says the villagers chased them away, burnt their house, and that a relative sold their land.
So he disappeared.
Well, if somebody can't be found, the best
But
thing...
the son means that there's a family that he left behind.
Yes. The
But
family
the house was torched,
land sold.
land sold.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, according to the story, Kipingetich was in Malindi, Kilifi County, where he was hiding after villagers had allegedly chased his family away and set the house ablaze. Chased away, moved, okay? His son Samuel Kiprop yesterday claimed that his relatives sold their 1.5 acres and took off. Kiprop said that when he visited their home, the person now living there on the land claimed he had bought it. We tried going back home, but we were chased away again. I feel bad that I was separated from my sister who lives with a well-wisher in Malindi. Villagers drove us out after our father had pulled out of the case.
Okay. Is there any indicator why the villagers were doing this? Were they angry at the man for pulling out of the case, or were they angry at the man for getting involved in the case in the first place?
They were angry because the man actually volunteered in the first place.
This is what was...
Yes, so pulling out was...
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. You've already sold
out.
us.
Yeah.
It also points to the prevailing sentiments of the day and what it was that was being felt. That somebody who, at that particular point in time, was willing to be a witness in a case, even though they say they withdrew. Remember, there were 8 others who withdrew. He wasn't the only one, all right? That in itself was considered an act of treason.
By the villagers.
You see, the discussion around this particular issue gets to the heart of the things that we believe and know and the things we pretend we don't know and believe. You see, and it also gets to the heart of what we think societally are issues of wrong and right and what we think is acceptable. Essentially, here you are saying that it is acceptable for you to burn someone's house and to chase them away from their land because they took a certain position, which is unpleasing to you.
Yes.
So you commit a crime. Because everything that I've read here is criminal.
And then this is also then endorsed by the powers that be, the
Yes.
government.
Yes.
Because if the local chief knows this family and
Very
can
well.
see that they've torched their home, this matter, by the time it's going for transfer of land ownership, the local chief is involved.
They're always
There's a
involved.
local land board.
Yes.
So the local community is involved in endorsing the fact that, yes, we know this land, we know it's being sold to so and so. You also know who occupied the land before. And this is a family home, which means that the relatives are the ones who are selling the land. Everybody knows. So it gets into the heart of the matter and tells you that the issue of justice for post-election violence in 2007 is not just a surface-level issue.
No, it is not. It is not. And anyone who's trying to make it a surface issue is actually lying. Because how do you explain a situation where I was reading this story and it is even reported that the chief himself was saying that this man had made life difficult for him.
The chief?
Yes, and other villagers. So I'm thinking, so made life difficult for you how? Seriously. He's the one who volunteered. The son Kiprop says, but my father did nothing wrong. He was simply going to say what he knew and what he saw. He wasn't going to fabricate anything.
Now you're going to sell... You see, you're not going to talk about those stories without mentioning the locals.
Precisely.
The issue is here now you're going to say, so who was involved, who in the local area did what, did this and the other. You're basically going to sell us out.
You know, when it became impossible for these people to actually provide the testimonies in person, a 3-judge bench... I got it right.
You got it right today. Don't even
Yeah.
think about it. Keep
Okay.
going.
Go ahead,
Yes.
yes. I said, look, why don't we do this by video link instead? Okay. Remember...
Testify by video.
Yes,
link.
the reason why I'm raising this issue, right now, we have a problem in Laikipia and we have a problem in Marsabit. But we can talk about it later.
We can continue this conversation. Keep it right here. A very good morning to you. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire Dennis Asseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has maintained that his government has seen the implementation of devolution across the country open up the nation to development and business. It said that as the government that was mandated to implement the constitutional requirements when it comes to devolution has managed to open up the past sleepy towns to vibrancy and business.
Honorable members, there are many more testimonials on how accelerating the formation of county structures and supporting them with skilled personnel, resources and legislation has embedded devolution in the last 8 years. Once sleepy towns across the country have now roared back into life, driving not just grand infrastructure projects, but also tangible increases in household incomes of ordinary Kenyans.
Meanwhile, today, Nakuru town will boast the status of a city, becoming the fourth in the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta said he will confer the county with the city status when he will make a visit there today. The head of state said Nakuru municipality is expected to exponentially grow in all sectors following the new city status that will translate into increased standards of living.
Mr. Speakers, as devolution takes root and as an affirmation of the equitable development we continue to enjoy, and in keeping with the resolution of the Senate, I will tomorrow, the 1st of December 2021, have the high privilege of conferring on Nakuru municipality city status. Nakuru city will join Kisumu, Mombasa and Nairobi as cities, and with their reputation as East Africa's cleanest town, all of Kenya looks forward to Nakuru city growing by leaps and bounds.
Now, the cost of living has continued to ease, with the rate of inflation falling to 5.8% in November from 6.4% in October, according to new data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. The cool down in inflation across the last 2 months from October, when inflation fell from a high of 6.9%, points to easing consumer spending pressures. Now, Football Kenya Federation boss Nick Mwendwa has quit his position, citing frequent arrest and hours after he was charged in court with corruption. In a letter to National Executive Committee members, Mwendwa announced he had since asked his deputy Doris Petra to assume all functions of the FKF president. This as he was charged with 38 million shillings fraud in a case in which he pleaded not guilty. Milimani's senior principal magistrate Eunice Nyutu granted him 10 million shillings bail or bond of 15 million shillings with two sureties of a similar amount. Mwendwa has been banned from accessing FKF offices, contacting witnesses and publishing in the media anything regarding the case. The case will be mentioned on December 20th. Mwendwa has been in police custody since Friday last week. Now, an activist has moved to court seeking to compel the court to order DCI boss George Kinoti to arrest businessman Jimmy Wanjigi for being in possession of illegal firearms and ammunition. Member Ocharo alleges that Wanjigi, who is a former senior police reservist, is a danger to the members of the public due to the number of guns in his possession.
So we have come to court to seek for an order from numbers to compel one, Mr. George Kinoti, the current director of investigations in this country, the current head of Interpol, the whole of Africa, to take action, arrest that person. If there is sufficient evidence, arraign him in court tomorrow so that the security of Kenyans is assured.
Through lawyer Danson Omari, Ocharo says Wanjigi poses a great danger and risk to the members of the public, as no citizen should have in their custody 688 ammunitions and about 11 guns.
At one time, Honorable Jimmy Wanjigi was sold more than 14 guns. These are guns that are of high caliber, but are normally in the KDF or military or guns found with the terrorists. 7 guns were subject of a case before Justice Murima. That aside, that is not why we are in court. We are in court that Mr. Wanjigi has other 7 guns. These 7 guns were bought illegally. He also has more than 700 rounds of ammunition, the bullets of high caliber in nature.
Now, new evidence has revealed that the Omicron variant of the coronavirus was already present in Western Europe well before the first cases were officially identified in Southern Africa. Authorities in the Netherlands said that it detected the variant in test samples as early as November 19th, a full week before the positive cases detected last Friday among passengers who arrived in Amsterdam on a flight from South Africa. Health officials in Japan and France also confirmed their first cases of Omicron, joining a growing list of nations including Britain, Canada, Scotland, Switzerland, Australia, Austria, Spain and Sweden. The emergent and rapid spread of Omicron has prompted Stephen Bancel, the chief executive of pharmaceutical giant Moderna, to warn that the world's existing COVID-19 vaccines may be less effective against the new variant compared to Delta and other earlier variants. This as we continue to urge you to get out there, get vaccinated so that we can win the fight against COVID-19. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
All right, still looking at traffic building up in certain parts of the city today on the Thika Superhighway coming into that junction then with the Muthui Square. Kiambu Road also has built up some. We're looking at coming out of Parklands. Most of the roads that we're seeing now building up with traffic. I think traffic hours starting earlier and earlier as we go along. Langata Road also quite a thing. Coming off Mombasa Road, we're also looking at tailback traffic. Sabaki then towards the SGR and then out towards Imaradaima. We're going to see a little bit of a hold up there, but it's not too terrible. We can make our way through without too much of a scratch. So let's be diligent on the roads this morning. A bit of a drizzle in some parts of Nairobi. The sun is shining on the other side. But we should be all right. Talk to us, guys, just in case things do get sticky. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Moving into the morning, right?
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start
It's 8
your
minutes
day.
after 7. Good morning, and how are you doing? If you're just joining us, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. We're here until 10 a.m. this lovely December. Happy December. City has the day's proverb.
Yes, huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
For those that do not understand that language of yours.
You cannot put on a shoe on someone who is running.
You cannot put on a shoe.
This is a very simple proverb, but man, is it laden with meaning.
So much, my goodness.
Loaded. You know that fully loaded?
Yes.
Yes, this one is fully loaded.
What meaning do you have here, Ndu?
Sorry?
When you said, oh my goodness. So what came to mind?
Well, I'm thinking, the train has already left the station, the horse has already left the stable, kind of thing, It's already moving. You can't do much preparation when you're already in the race. You've already left. You can't prepare, right? So any preparation that you need to have done, do it before. Because once you get rolling, you're on the way, right?
Yeah. The other one I see is, if you see somebody doing something, leave them alone.
You don't know why they're doing what they're doing.
Usimpange. Here is not, it's not saying you cannot put on shoes when you're already running. It is you cannot put shoes on somebody who's already running.
They're already gone.
Yes.
Now you are trying to say, come do
You
this.
are the one who's trying to panga their life. They have no problem at all. They have decided they want to run. For whatever reason, they're running barefoot. Leave them alone.
You're assuming that when they started running barefooted,
They didn't know what
They did not know that they don't have shoes.
shoes, yes.
Or that they forgot.
You know, people, we have this tendency of always prescribing things for others. You know what you should do?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Pilipili usioila. This is the one.
Yes. I like that particular proverb.
Pili, pili, so what?
No, in fact, it's very good. Very good.
It's very good.
I even like the version that my people have of it.
Yes.
Pilipili shambani, wewe nyumbani, na washa wewe wapi? You know,
there's a Nigerian version.
I need to know the meaning first of this one that City said.
It's that one of headache and Panadol.
Yes.
Okay, you want drink Panadol on top person head.
Yeah. See?
That one.
But,
That one.
Okay.
It's the same one. The president was in parliament yesterday. A number of things. Number one, so Eden Duale, the MP for Garissa Town, saying, first, this president came late. He's supposed to have been here at 2 to 30. He's coming at 3. This is not respecting parliament. Anyway, president read a speech. And increasingly, the president has been reading very long speeches. Remember, we even talked about it in Madaraka Day.
We did.
Was it Madaraka? It was the other day. Mashujaa.
Yeah.
Mashujaa Day speech and saying, my God, that speech was so long. An hour plus of just reading. Yesterday, the president read. He got to a point, he said, end of part one.
You know me, I like
for his water.
Eric, you know, it gave you time to actually walk from your sitting room, wherever you are, go and get a cup of tea, come back
and continue.
And then also finish that tea, go and get another cup, come back and continue. Yes.
He was reading until he got to a point, he said, hai, hata mimi nimechoka. Hii kitu is too long. But he was basically looking back at, and we've seen the president does this on national holidays. He basically talks about what his government is doing, what his government has been able to achieve. A number of things that he mentioned, and you were looking at them, they are covered in the papers today. Looking at the economy, how much the economy has grown. He says when he took over, the economy was at 4.5 trillion. That's the size of our GDP. In 2021, our economy is 11 trillion shillings strong. He says that the number of households connected to electricity in 2013, when he took over, was only 2.3 million households. Now there are 8.6 million households who've been connected to electricity. Whether they're switching it on or off, that's a different story, but they have been connected to electricity. How many kilometers of roads have been done? Between independence and 2013, only 11,000 kilometers of road. Between 2013 and 2021, an extra 10,000 plus kilometers of roads. Work that has happened. A number of things that I was listening to and they stuck for me was the potentials that he was talking about. For example, he talked about the Lamu port, saying, we are working on the Lamu port, and the whole idea is making Lamu port a transshipment port. There are only 6 such ports in the world. We want to make Lamu the 7th. And the whole idea is a port where large vessels come, they dock, they offload, and they move. They don't have to go to the busy ports elsewhere. Then you can now use this to be the node where goods move from here to other parts. Give the example of Amsterdam and Shanghai. The distance between Shanghai and Amsterdam, and he said it's so many thousands of kilometers. Kenya is half. So goods can come here, and then goods can leave here to go to Amsterdam. Now, all those things you're talking about, the potential of what just having the port of Lamu could do to not just the economy of Lamu, but the economy of the country and the economy of the region. The other thing that he also mentioned about the port is what they're doing at Kilindeni in Mombasa with the expansion of the oil facilities at the Mombasa port. He says, look, we have been having an issue where we only have one terminal where vessels can dock and offload their oil cargo. That causes demurrage fees because vessels are here, they are not being offloaded, and how long it takes us to offload a vehicle. Now, if you expand that, we can have 4 vehicles docked at any one time, and then they'll offload even much faster. Within 4 hours, they are done. Currently, we have one vessel taking number of days to offload its cargo. If we do that, then we are saying in a day we can have 16 vessels docking and offloading their cargo, which means that we can transport oil products across the region using the port of Mombasa. Potential. And I was looking at that and thinking, on paper, some of these things are just what you need to actually unlock a lot of potential if they could be done. if they could be done on time, if they could be done the right way. The fact that we've opened up all these number of kilometers, it means that people have easier transport capabilities. It means that you have easier access to markets. It means that your cost of production when it comes to transport element should be going down if you have all these other things to factor in. If you've increased your power production capacity, it also means something else. But what is the cost of that power? Those are now the nitty-gritties and the details.
You know, if I look at what the president was saying, the thing that came to my mind as I was listening to his speech yesterday was what China did in 30 years. They initially, one didn't know much about what was happening, but it was a clear agenda and they set it in motion. And how many people did they then, as a result of all those wonderful things, move from the clutches of absolute poverty? How many hundreds of millions?
Yeah.
Right away from poverty.
600 million people.
Away from poverty completely.
Within a generation.
One generation. Done. The progress you can see. Now, I'm pointing this out because all these things that we speak of, whether they are good roads, whether we have a pipeline, whether we have ports, whether we have more airports, whether we christen more towns to become cities, if the life of the common individual in the country is not improved, then how then can you say that things are changing for the better in the country? How? Of what use are tall buildings? Of what use are beautiful, lovely expressways if the poor man is getting poorer by the day? And the very basic things that they're supposed to expect in terms of health, in terms of education, are not there. Of what use are all these things?
But what are those things that are not available? How do you connect between what you need to for people to get access to for development to happen versus their daily life? That question, because I always keep remembering when Uhuru Kenyatta was the leader of opposition, right? One of those moments when Mwai Kibaki would make such kind of addresses, Uhuru would say, so you are talking about the economy is growing, is the ordinary man getting poorer or not? And the answer even then was, the ordinary man is still feeling the pinch. Many years later, was there actual difference between what Kibaki had inherited versus what Kibaki was doing and what Kibaki left? There was.
There was a huge difference because in the Kibaki government, what the common Mwananchi gained was palpable, it was visible.
Over time, though, City, it wasn't immediate.
I'm talking about the consequences of it. The president has taken over a system that was begun by Kibaki. If indeed, we're talking about a 20-year period now, it's now 19, okay?
Yes.
Should there not be any sign? Should we be talking about this poverty level not decreasing, increasing? Should it not have gone down somewhat if what we are saying is that the very things that President Kibaki began are the things that we are now seeing coming to fruition? Should that not be the case?
So that's what I'm asking. So how do we connect those things? Because today we talk about how Kibaki improved our economy, how Kibaki changed things, how Kibaki... Were people wealthier in 2013 than they were in 2003? The time when Uhuru Kenyatta was leader of opposition was before the 2007 election, all right? In those first 5 years, when there was all these things that Kibaki was saying, we've done this, we've started the Thika Superhighway, we've doing that, we are bringing... Uhuru was asking, but is the common man getting a shilling?
Eric, it's
the same question.
It's a question that we cannot stop asking.
Yes, but how do we now answer that question? Do we answer the question by saying, wait for it, it's coming?
No.
Or do we answer that? Because if we look at it now, for example, look at what the president was saying. Access to healthcare, okay. Do we have more hospitals built in the country? Yes, we do. When he talked about do we have more level 6 hospitals, we have an Othaya level 6. We have Kenyatta University level 6.
We have Kenyatta itself.
Right? We have Kenyatta itself and Moi teaching. And we have Oginga Odinga. Sindio?
Yes.
We have those ones. Now, do we have more level 5s that have been built over these 7 years of devolution? Yes, we do. Do we have more doctors that have been trained? Yes, we do. Do we have more KMTCs? In fact, one of the things that I was doing when I was going to Wote and then later I went to Loitoktok, I noticed there's a KMTC in Wote, there's a KMTC in Makindu, there's a KMTC in Emali, there's a KMTC in Loitoktok. I was like, wait, there are so many KMTCs now. He was actually mentioning it yesterday. We have more KMTCs and more people graduating from these colleges who are health professionals.
We do.
True.
Yes.
We do.
So now, at what point do we start saying, when shall we start feeling the benefit of all these things that
Of
more?
all of this that is being done? Because, you know, the thing is, if you think about it like farming, you put something in the ground, you tend it for some time, at some point, it's got to break through and start to give you fruit. You don't expect that you plant this thing and then you're not going to be able to get the fruit of this thing that you have put through. The expectation is that after some time, you will then be able to harvest this fruit and then it will be of benefit to you. I can understand that you will be in that waiting period for some time when you're tending the plant and that you're doing all necessary for it to give you this harvest that you can then partake of. But it cannot be that for the longest time, we're talking 2003 until now, it cannot be that for this 18 or so years that Kenyans are still waiting for when they will see a time where they can say, yes, all of this effort that has been made, all of this money that has been spent, all of these policies that then have been created, when are Kenyans going to actually see tangible fruit and say, yes, I can see that as a result of all these KMTCs, I can see, yes, healthcare, absolutely, right here, closer to me. That when I'm thinking that I have this life-threatening illness, I don't have to think of going outside the country, right? When are you actually going to see that schools that have been established, if they truly have been, that we can see that the level and quality of education has actually risen? You cannot be in the tending stage for 18 years.
Maybe you can. When Deng Xiaoping started that whole journey in China, right, in 1978, he's just taken over from Chairman Mao, who's died. Deng Xiaoping has started this whole journey and said, this is the journey that I'd like us to take in China. The 100 million people did not get out of poverty immediately.
No, they didn't, but they had markers.
It took the second leader.
Yes.
It took the third leader. By the time now Hu Jintao was in power is when now China is actually being felt. Oh, yeah.
But you know,
Yes,
but you
but
see, but you see, the thing is,
And that's in 15 years.
but they had a marked plan.
the
And if you
20th.
look at it, I need to get you that document and I'll send it to you. If you look at it, when they came up with it, because it was a 60-year plan. And at the end of every 5 years, they said, these are at least some of the things that we will be able to realize. And if you look back and you say, actually, yes, they were actually able to realize, and they said that the people were actually able to benefit. It was not that at the end of 60 years that you say, okay, we're going to continue suffering for these 60 years. And at the end of the 60 years, boom, everything is lined up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're able to
It will be progressive.
enjoy it. Exactly.
Sindio, it
but
will
then
be
you can see
progressive.
the markers as you go
And those
along.
markers, even today, if you look at the last 20 years of Kibaki Uhuru, you can talk about infrastructure. Have you opened up the country infrastructure-wise? Yes, we have.
Okay, and
Do we
so-
have a new railway that moves from Mombasa that takes people all the way to Kisumu? Yes, we do.
Sure, people
Do
were
we
able to
have
travel
new
in
ports?
ways that they were
Yes,
not
we
able
do.
to before.
Yeah. Do we have more power generated in the country? Yes, we do. Do we have more healthcare facilities? Yes, we do. Do we have a new constitution? Yes, we do.
So now, if that is the case, why do you have people in the constant state of complaint that, you know what, things seem to be getting worse as opposed to getting better?
You know, even if you talk about things improving and increasing, so is the population.
Yes.
So the question that I would ask is, are these improvements meeting the needs of the population? You asked if there's a measure. Yes, there is a measure. The way your people benefit is not by many of these things. These things are a good additive, but it's by the cost of living going down. If the cost of living goes down, then it means people are able to afford a living. That's what it means. You cannot talk prosperity of a country and people are... those below the poverty line are increasing. That is not a prosperous country. No, that's an exploitative country where there are people who are doing very well, extremely well, and then the vast majority are doing extremely badly. That is a situation that I'm saying must be avoided. We are talking about hospitals being increased. They must be increased. We have an increasing population. Schools, they must be increased. Everything that we have must increase. More towns must become cities. There must be more roads. Must. Why? More people. Now,
Yes.
the reason why the Kibaki government, in many ways, was praised was this. What we now refer to as the middle class, the thinking behind it and the actual realization of people who are able to do certain things was realized in that period. Now, why do I mention this concept? It's because of the taxes they're able to pay. China's strength is in that class, that middle class.
Yes.
They have a massive middle class. Now, in any country that is considered a developed country, it's the same story.
Yes.
The middle class are the engine.
Yes.
Now, we have a situation where I feel that is what ought to be desirable.
That's what we are seeing.
Okay.
Let me show you how. In 2013, taxes being collected in the country. This is at the end, at the peak of the Kibaki era, 780 billion.
Yes.
Last year, 1.5 trillion.
Twice.
Double.
Yeah.
Right? What does that tell you?
There are more people paying taxes.
The more people paying taxes.
Yes.
Which means what? Which means that you have an expanding number of people who are able to earn a living and to pay taxes. It may not be a good measure, but it's an indicator.
It is an indicator, Eric. But also it's an indicator that we're taxing people more.
It's an indicator of the heavy reliance on these taxes in terms of now what you need to keep government running.
You know, I need to actually perhaps make this clear. I'm not saying that there is no progress. Huh? No. There is progress. But if the people, okay, Lamu Port, all right? Wonderful ideas, great things for the country. Now, in that speech, was there a clear indication how the people of Lamu, the fishermen of Lamu, those in the archipelago, all those people, was there an indication of how this is going to benefit them? Or should we just assume that when you have a port and all these things are happening, that
It'll
you will
just fall into
immediately
place.
How? Should there not be a plan? Because there's a discussion, the blue economy, which is just a discussion, okay? Those people are in the sea. The sea is where they get their livelihood from. The discussion of the blue economy, yes. What is the plan for them? Plan. All that we've heard. Plan. Port, wonderful idea.
By plan, what do you mean?
My plan
So
is...
that these people have been fishing and docking here. Now that they're no longer going to be docking here, where shall they be docking?
No. When you have a port of this nature in this area, it'll change very many things.
Yes.
Okay? Now, these are the changes that it'll bring about.
Yes.
And these are the benefits that you can derive from it.
Yes.
Fishing is just one component, because the moment you have a port, the issue of there just being fishermen, even livelihoods will change. The things that people do
changes.
will change.
The economy of Lamu
will
changes.
change. Now, that is what I'm saying. Plan. I'm sure there's a plan.
Yes. There is a plan. By the time they're saying, let's build a port, there is a plan.
But Eric, the people of
Now,
Lamu...
did the president talk about, okay, so this is what's going to happen in the first 2 years? This is no, he didn't mention that. Okay? But you are somebody who thinks far and wide. Think about it. Are there going to be benefits to the people of Lamu when you have a huge economic activity such as a transshipment port here in Lamu?
In theory, yes.
Okay? Number two, there's a conversation about blue economy. Kenya has co-hosted a blue economy conversation, a global blue economy conversation. We spoke to somebody here from the Jumuiya County Zapwani who was telling us, in fact, even the money is coming in onto what's going to happen here. The president even mentioned fishing and the blue economy and the Liwatoni and the Lamu fishing plans. Those are there, City. How's it going to change? How's it going to change is, first of all, let's change how the local fishermen have been doing the business. You've been doing it small time with the dhow. The vision here is to move from just dhow to trawler.
That is a story.
Get deeper into the sea.
That's a story.
Or get organized.
That's a story. It's a story. Let me explain why I'm telling you it's a story, Eric. Because you have a situation where the cake, as it were, is being baked and it's a huge cake. But that cake is going to get stolen, it's not shared. What you're talking about is the cake being baked and shared. Let's forget Lamu for the time being and talk about the port of Mombasa.
Yes.
The reason why the port of Mombasa is such a big discussion and such a big hoo-ha, for the longest time, it was considered the biggest asset that the coast has. It's a national asset, but because it's nestled at the coast, the coastal people felt this is something. Now, the businesses that grew from it, like say transportation and everything, warehousing, everything that grew from it, there was a net benefit that accrued to the people of the coast. Now, one heard the noise that was made when the SGR came into being and the discussion, but that's a discussion for another day, okay? What am I saying? Liwatoni is where very many of the ships that were involved in some form of shipping docked. It's in Liwatoni where you even have shipping yards. In case people don't know, we actually, these ferries, we can actually build them from scratch in this particular country. What am I saying? These things, yes, offer employment. But apart from offering employment, they offer huge business opportunities.
Yes.
Now the question I'm asking, are the people from Lamu going to benefit from this thing? Is there an affirmative action that will guarantee that the people of Lamu actually are at the front of this? Or is it the same game that we see being played all over? People who've benefited from these things, benefiting from, and the people of Lamu staying exactly where they were before.
I hear you asking a wider and a deeper question then, is that as has been prescribed or maybe understood from the president and those who are in administration around him, is the state of the nation, as has been prescribed by this president, the actual state of the nation right now in the country? Is that the state of the nation? From what he said yesterday, from these things that he's been able to show us, when you bring it down to the ground in terms of trickling it down to implementation of some of these projects that he's put in place, is that the state of the nation?
Do the people agree that this is the state of the nation?
Everything the president said about what they've done is true. They have done. I am not talking about what has been done. I'm talking about the implications, all right? Because from that discussion, what is not included? When you tell you've increased, yes, you have.
At what cost?
Yes. The man actually understands exactly what I was saying. Just give me a hard time for the sake of
The
it.
cost is there. The cost is expected. You're not going to have a new house without investing in that new house. If you didn't have enough savings, you're going to borrow
but
to
at some
build
point
that
you
house.
must move in, man.
Yes, and you now move in.
And at some point, you must finish paying for it.
Indeed.
Yes.
Put in some windows.
The thing is, you have to be in the house. It's 28 minutes to 8, the state of the nation. Do you agree with the president's state of the nation? Is that the state of the nation? We'll be picking your calls shortly, 0719 012 600. But first, let's take a look at the weather and traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Want to play in the League of Pros? BTV and Zlatan Gaming Lounge presents the B-Team Takeover. PS5 FIFA 2022 Tournament. 4th December at Zlatan Gaming Lounge, Elite Plaza, Rongai. Show off your skills. 64 players, 6 rounds, 3 winners. Cash prizes and a staycation up for grabs. Registration fee 1,000 shillings. Payable by Paybill 22211 account Z Gaming. For more information, contact 0719 012 546 or DM the BTV social media handles. Rise up to the challenge. What makes a man?
I had an advertising job that was toxic. It was difficult. I'm not saying the people were toxic. I don't think anyone is inherently toxic.
Don't ever let someone's perception of you become your reality.
How do we navigate through career, family, and life?
I was an average kid. I wasn't a poor student.
Examining what defines a man.
We derive our identity as men based on external factors, on things that people can be able to see.
A space for men to open their experiences and more. Starting Thursday, 18th November on the Standard Digital YouTube and Facebook page. Hosted by Eric Latiff.
Famous, the secrets we keep, live La Liga action. Offer ya Showmax Black Friday special imeingia. Lipa for 1 month and get a second month sare. Yani 2 whole months of the biggest shows in Kenya na English Premier League footer and lots more. Zote kwa one low price only on Showmax. Offer inachomoka soon, so sign up chap at showmax.com.
They say the world can never run dry of talent. We just need to celebrate them. Join Jamal and the lovely Laura as they give us a brilliant showcase of 254's finest talent in the music industry and take us through great music hits. Watch Iwake every Saturday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Highs of 23 and lows of 15. 15 and cloudy in Nakuru City. 24 will be the high and lows of 12. Nyeri town at 16 is cloudy. Highs of 23 and lows of 13, while Eldoret is mostly cloudy at 16. Highs of 23 and lows of 12. We're looking at sunny conditions in Mombasa this morning at 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25, while in Malindi it's mostly cloudy at 26, still go to highs of 31. Kisumu mostly cloudy at 21, highs of 28 and lows of 19, and in Kakamega 22 degrees, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Out in Kampala it's partly sunny at 20, highs of 25 and lows of 18, and we're looking at rain showers now in Dar es Salaam at 26, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is mostly sunny this morning at 16, it'll go to highs of 26, and Lagos is clear at 25, that'll be today's low, going to highs of 34. Showers turned into thunderstorms in Kinshasa at 23, it'll go to highs of 30.
Okay, so let's talk about Showmax. Gone are the days when you had to sit back and wait for TV content on TV. Now you can actually watch all video on demand from whatever platform that you want to use. What platforms do you use? You have a TV? A laptop?
TV.
Mobile?
Yes.
Yeah, you can watch whatever, your favorite. Yes. You can watch a game, you can watch...
I even have a radio.
Yeah. You have a radio on your phone?
No, just radio.
You have a radio? Yeah. So for video content, City, you can watch all these things. Laptop, a PC, a smartphone, Chromecast, smart TV, gaming console, whatever, you name it. And Showmax is now giving you this opportunity. It's a bag of. Subscribe today for a month and you get 1 month free of Showmax. Today?
Yes.
Tomorrow,
let's talk later. Just do it today. And you get a 1 month free of Showmax content, okay? So you get access to all these things. There are different plans that we'll be telling you about. You can select whichever plan that you want to select. Yeah? Yes. 23 minutes to 8. How the road's looking like?
All right, so we're still looking at cloudy conditions. Yes, so that means that traffic bears on that. We have a lot of traffic then building up on Mombasa Road today, coming out past the Maradaima, that little corner. Some problems there. Quite heavy traffic now. We're looking at Sabaki all the way outbound. Remember, the construction continues on Mombasa Road, and that means that things are going to slow down considerably. Looking out onto North Airport Road as well, going then out towards Embakasi and the Eastern Bypass. Some issues there. North Airport then going out towards that Donholm interchange. Langata Road also building up. Uhuru Highway, where it was clear and free before, not so much right now. Makadara on Jogo Road is where you see a lot of action today in terms of traffic, and the Thika Superhighway here and there ebbing and flowing, but traffic is building up considerably there, getting into the CBD. Not to forget, there are ways out of this. Use the bypasses this morning, guys. Red Hill Link Road coming out of Western, the Southern Bypass to get out off of Mombasa Road, the Eastern Bypass to get out of Outer Ring. And of course the Northern Bypass, but we're seeing a little bit of an issue there this morning. All right, let's use those guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Spice up your life.
It is 21 minutes to 8. Mr. Speaker, sir. This is what the president was saying yesterday, or Mr. Speakers, because there were two speakers in the House. This is what the president was talking about yesterday. In the State of the Nation address yesterday, he said, okay, so how much work has actually gone into developing the country? How many things have happened? From the speaker's speech, or from the president's speech, he was mentioning the things that have happened in terms of healthcare. He says, we have increased the number of health facilities. We have increased the number of KMTCs. We are graduating more people in the lower cadres of health. We are even graduating more people in the higher cadres of health. The number of doctors that are graduating from our schools of medicine is increasing. The number of children that are now transitioning from primary to secondary has increased. 67% of pupils were transitioning from Standard 8 to Form 1. This year, 100% of those that start KCPE have moved on to KCSE. This is what has happened in the country in the last number of years that he's been in office. The questions are, is this the actual state of the nation, or is it the state of the nation where the president says, according to what I see, what I've ordered and what I've been given as a report, this is what's happening? Are the same things being felt on the ground? Want to hear from you. 0719-012-600. Karaoke in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, awesome trio.
Good morning,
Karaoke, how have you been?
Niko sawa, asante. Yeah. Nowadays, I don't get to hear city being called Methuselah. You should assert your Solomonic name.
Actually,
Anyway,
Karaoke,
so
now that you say you haven't heard, but you have revived it by referring to me with that the name of the man who lived God knows for how long.
it's out of your own description. The blood usually pops up. Solomon, wisdom, fountain of wisdom.
Karaoke,
which you are.
Are we on earpiece? Because I think you've put it too close to so it's popping into our ears.
Sorry. Okay, I'll temper that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
State of the nation.
I hope this is better.
Yes, that's better.
It is.
I think the numbers that were enumerated to a very limited extent, reflect what is true, but they are, embellished a great deal. I'll give examples. So it all sounds good that KRA has doubled tax revenues in the last, I think, 8 years or so. But does it sound as good that Kenyans are among the most heavily taxed citizens in Africa, at least? Or does it sound good that we are not only among the most heavily taxed countries on the continent, but that our balance of payments is, it's widening and unfavorably so for Kenya? Of course, we are heavily saddled with debt. Kenya is living beyond its means. I know of some manufacturers who are closing down in spite of the seemingly rosy outlook, and if they are not closing down, they are, reducing the scale of their operations, partly due to the increasing cost of business. We may have drastically expanded power supply, but how efficiently when millions of meters are going missing and manufacturers are looking at setting up manufacturing sites elsewhere? And still, even on doubling of tax revenues, because that's one thing that keeps being harped by the executive. Something that the government considers a feat is doubling of tax revenues. But look at the stock exchange index, which usually is a good yardstick for gauging the health or otherwise of a country's economy. The truth is that we are so heavily taxed. And these are facts. I think the National Bureau of Statistics people, maybe you should even invite them one day. We are so heavily taxed that this heavy tax has stifled national savings. And that is why, or rather, the heavy tax has stifled national savings, and by that undermining the socio-economic welfare of Kenyans. So we are struggling to meet our healthcare needs.
If I may ask you, Karaoke, if I may ask you, in 2012, the amount of tax that Karaoke, the taxpayer, was paying, has it increased in terms of the number of taxes or the amount of tax between 2012 and 2020?
It has. So I'll give an example. It may not be my own tax, but it has a ripple effect. we didn't have railway development levy. Ask any importer. Who is paying for railway development levy? It's you and I. You have a debit card or credit card, I presume, Eric.
Yep.
Do you know, none of those are manufactured here. They are manufactured from out of the country. But the bank will slap you with a charge. You won't notice it. And in that charge, there is RDL, there is
excise,
another
of course.
tax. Besides excise, there's also another one that was sneaked in. I forget the name. So directly or indirectly, outside of pay as you earn, we are paying a lot of taxes. So I am paying a lot of tax compared to the case 8 or so years ago. I'm definitely doing that. We are also paying additional tax on KPLC bills because the independent power producers dependent on fuel. The Kenya shilling has tanked, so we are paying more for dollars, and that is reflecting on our power bills. So we are paying a lot more. Yeah. So that was my contribution. But obviously, many Kenyans are gullible, so they don't see some of these things. We're just lucky that COVID-19 pandemic did not hit us as hard. Otherwise, we would have been in a far worse situation. And I could go on and on with examples, but the point I'm making is that when you look at numbers, they tell a lot of stories. But don't bury the tragic stories they tell, and illuminate, the good ones.
Only the good ones.
Anyway, and these good ones are still linked to the bad.
Thank you. Thank you, Karaoke.
Yeah.
Thank you. Karanja in Naivasha, good morning.
Good morning, David, Du and City.
Good morning, Karanja.
Good morning, Karanja.
Yes, now, the state of presidential address was very nice, given the fact that if what the president said could have been implemented in areas like they give the good policies of education, good policies of health, good policies of governance, we could have gone to the greater heights. The issue of taxes, like what Karaoke was saying, we are paying a lot of taxes. How are this money being used? Come to the areas of the governance, like we have in Nakuru County we have the governor. How are these taxes are being used?
In the counties?
You see, if the tax in counties, we have 47 counties in Kenya, isn't it?
Yes.
How are these taxes, the taxes that we pay, how are they being used? These are the areas that the president needs to address, because
I think
they give from the national.
Don't you think he was addressing that when he says, for example, that we have built this and the other, we have new health facilities, we have new imaging system at KU, Teaching and Referral Hospital, that the first in sub-Saharan Africa, the only. We have all these kilometers of roads. That's where the taxes are going.
The kilometers of roads are there, my friend, but the problem is, if you build good roads, like look for instance in my neighboring county in Nyadarua here, you build good roads, but the cabbages and the potatoes and the carrots, they are rotten in the gardens because the prices are very down, very low. The prices of maybe a bag of potato, a bag of carrots, a bag of cabbages, they are very low.
Okay.
So he missed it. Yes.
He needs to correlate between those two. How much effort is going in and how much output you're getting out of everything, all the efforts, right? Savatia says, that was State House's State of the Nation address, not ours. When I grow up, I'd like to believe in utopian stories spun by the Jubilee government the way Latiff does. We've been taxed more to pay back for the government's collective errors, bad loans, nothing to write home about. Savatia, look at what has been presented, okay? That's what I'm just doing. I'm just saying, okay, is it true that there are roads? It's true. Is it true that there are these facilities? It's true. Is it true that the port of Lamu has great potential for the country? It's true. Okay. The other question, I have not addressed it. At what cost? Valid question to ask, and that's what Karaoke and Karanja are asking. Karanja, Kennedy in Kisumu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Morning, Kennedy.
Good morning, CT Muga.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Good morning, Super Galdu, Okoh.
Good morning, Kennedy.
All right. Nice to actually hear the kind of discussion we're just having this morning. I'm so much impressed, all right? As a citizen who actually listens very carefully because I'm concerned with the state of the situation right now. I think the address was a little bit polished beyond the reality that is just taking place right on the ground. Because truly speaking, the expectation that I was just looking forward to have is that they needed to actually address the questions on what they have just laid down on the systems of accountability and the strong policies of actually just curbing the wastage and the kind of corruption that they just seeking around us. And he did not actually touch anything around that. So the kind of address that I actually watched yesterday was looking like we are a first world in Africa, which is not the reality of the ground, right? So it was polished beyond the expectation and the realities that are taking place. What the president needs to actually put a very serious emphasis on is that there is just a lot of wastage, especially if you actually come down at the county level.
Yep.
There is just a lot of money that are coming down here, and the taxes that we're collecting from the county levels are actually being used at a very big chunk.
More wastage.
Benefit the locals. But you see, there is just too much wastage. So the systems of accountability that we have from the national government trickling down to the counties is completely pathetic, and it's not existing in one way or the other. Because now, even the counties, they can't account for the usage on how they receive money. There is no updates around anything. You know, the United States of America.
Thank you. We get your point. There's something wrong with your line, so let's get other callers as well. 0719-012-600. The State of the Nation is what the President presented yesterday in Parliament, the actual State of the Nation from where you are.
Well, I mean, this comment that comes in from Mike Maish this morning, I think, is just solidifying what I was talking about. And he says, you know what? The president's speech was beautiful, and I can say he has done something. The part of power connectivity in the rural area, there's a very big number which remain with connection only, but without power. And I think this is a beautiful illustration of exactly what we are saying right now. So you've given or you've painted the picture that, yes, we've done this. We've done this. We've set up the body. But where is the life? Where is it? That you can say, yes, we've built this, that, or the other thing. But then where is the fluid that says you have a tarmac road, but have you worked on the state of the economy so much so that you can take now food to market and be able to get a profit for it? Have you been able to do that? Yes, you've set up a beautiful port, but have you worked on the mechanics so that people can actually make sure that people then are applying their trade and getting something for it that is actually profitable? You're saying you've worked on education. How many more schools have we seen being built? You've talked about 100% transition from primary school, right? Do we have enough teachers? We saw this whole debacle that we're seeing with teachers just a couple of days ago. Do we have enough? In terms of training, are we sure that there is enough to be able to deliver this education? And that's exactly what I'm talking about. You've set up the electrification, but you're not delivering the power. And this is what I'm saying. You have a country right now that is dealing under this stifling debt, and the people are paying the price for it. That if you're going to add another 10 shillings on what people are going to have to spend on a daily basis, you are crippling them. Why is that not being looked at? Why is that not being addressed? That the amount of money that has been borrowed and continues to be borrowed has a direct effect on the people, whereby they should be thriving. People are surviving.
Yes. Okay. So here are the questions. For you to expand this way, will you expand this way with a collection of 1 trillion shillings? You will not. You will need to borrow. Now, how much of your deficit are you going to run? So the question is, is the debt and the deficit that we are running year on year in our budget sustainable? Or is there a plan that says, okay, so we are going to have a deficit for the next 5 years, and after this, we need to grow the economy and have economic activity that then also raises our revenue collection, so we reduce our deficit and we continue running?
Okay, my question is, today, those development projects that we're saying, okay, that have been invested in, where are you seeing that they've been now helped to fuel livelihoods?
Where are they transforming?
Yeah, where? Right now.
Where are they transforming livelihoods?
Yeah.
In all the places.
Where?
We cannot argue that roads, for example, have had no impact on livelihoods, on economies.
The monies that are being borrowed for development, are they going towards development?
That's what I think Eric referred to as the cost.
Are they going towards development? And that is a question that must be addressed. The monies that the monies that you're collecting from taxes, are they going towards servicing the country, or are they contributing majorly towards servicing the debt that the country owes today?
Okay. Remember the analogy of the cake? That cake from the oven. All these people who have been told it's being baked, before you realize it, you're being told, well, yes, there was a cake. But what do you think about crumbs?
Yeah. Could you survive
we
on the
baked a cake, but you see, the person who gave us the unga, we have to give him a quarter of the cake.
This is the problem.
The person who gave us the margarine, you have to give them another quarter of the cake.
This is the thing. And
so
that's the state of the nation.
There's somebody who invented wheat. I know you haven't heard of him.
Yeah.
But
we had to pay the piper.
Yes.
There's a patent for the wheat.
Yes. And those are the things that you really have to look at when you're talking about all these nice glossy things.
But at the end of the day,
Eric,
the quarter that you're left with is it bigger quarter?
No, we cannot run away from the fact that these things have been done, they've been established. That's great, but it is giving a glossy picture of the a glossy picture that is taking away from the reality. That you cannot say that a third of your budget goes towards servicing debt.
Is it a third?
It's probably more. Goes towards servicing debt today. And you're dealing with a country that should be focusing really a lot of its revenue on development. And that is not happening.
Do you know what is actually also
It's
true?
not happening. That's the state of the nation, guys.
If you look at the amount of money that we're talking about in terms of money that we've borrowed, projects that we have borrowed money for, things that we've set in motion, in all honesty, that money should not be an issue.
But look at it, CT. Split your budget into three.
Yes.
A third of it is going towards servicing debt. A third of it, probably one of the highest maintenance budgets, that goes towards paying salaries and keeping things just kind of running. Then you just have a third for developing everything in the country, from health to education to making sure that your defense and your sovereignty is protected. All of those things have to find their way to fit into a third. And you've not even budgeted for the corruption that is. It would have been nice to say, you know what, in terms of corruption in this country, the thing that bleeds the country dry on a daily basis, said by you, Mr. President, at some point of a certain amount, this is what we've done to be able to curb it. This would be my desire to be able. Remember, you said it would be nice if the state of the nation said, you know what, guys, this is the truth. Indeed, we have done 1, 2, and 3.
But there's also this other side. So basically, what you're agreeing with what Kennedy is saying, that the president's speech was only one-sided.
It was one-sided.
It didn't give the entire state of the nation.
It was putting a crown and putting all the gloss and gold and glory, but the state of the nation, where it's like the feudal system. The lords are sitting up here in the castle, but the people down here are begging for bread. That's the state of the nation. And if you're going to give a state of a nation, if you're going to give your view on the state of the nation, it must be collective. It must be complete.
Must be all-rounded.
It has to
City,
be.
you agree with that? So the state of the nation addressed by the president was very much
president's view.
The president's view.
No.
Karaoke called it an embellished state of the
It
nation.
wasn't embellished. It was a part of the whole story. And we're saying there is
the other parts.
The other part
of this particular
which is
story.
critically important
It's
for
absolutely
him to come out and say,
yes,
for us to get here, this has been the costs.
Yes.
And we must repay these costs. And this is how we plan to repay the costs. Keep it right here for more conversations. Coming up in the next hour, it's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. All right? And we'll be having that conversation with two ladies who will be joining us. One from Save the Children and another one from the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. Final comment here coming in from Lamek says, the president illustrated superficial beauty, but skin-deep things are different. Good morning to you. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. Dennis Assetto. Kenya has slammed measures taken by various nations against countries that have detected the new COVID-19 Omicron strain, mainly in Southern Africa. Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Macharia Kamau said shutting borders cannot be a solution to the war against the virus and urged better policies including capacity building. Various European nations have closed borders in measures targeting South African countries and others from the continent where the new strain has been detected. Kamau said the time is ripe for the global community to adjust to the new normal of a mutating virus and that locking out certain countries will not support the fight against the pandemic. These as 7.1 million Kenyans had been vaccinated against COVID-19 in Kenya by the end of November 2021. Speaking during his State of the Nation address in Parliament, President Uhuru Kenyatta urged more people to turn up and take the jab for their own safety. With the new COVID-19 variants emerging from time to time, President Kenyatta called on the public to make sure they are vaccinated against the disease. Of the 7.1 million people who had received the jab by the end of November, 4,354,454 were partially vaccinated, while those fully vaccinated were 2,709,473. Now, the government has been urged to provide public hospitals with capital and human resource that will enable them to deal with anticipated surge of COVID-19 infections due to the new Omicron variant. KMPDU Secretary General Davji Atela says there's also need for the ministry to increase the number of COVID-19 vaccination centers.
There needs to be an increased COVID-19 vaccines in every place, not only at hospital setups, but in every site. Number two, we ask for availability of a quick way to manage the virus in case there's a resurgence. That is, we need to have the hospitals well equipped. We know that we've been having different waves of COVID over the years, but what as the country, the national government and the Ministry of Health put in place to ensure that if we have another resurgence next month or in the next 2 months, they will be able to combat it.
Davji further says that it's important for the government to hire more health workers as a solution to the current shortage that has affected efforts made in the fight against COVID-19.
We need to have the ventilators, we need to have the ICUs equipped, we need to have many more doctors and healthcare workers employed so that the strains we saw recently within the hospitals, the shortages that we experience is not again done the same way, but instead we need to have workers who will be able to actually manage the hospitals in case of resurgence.
Still on the new COVID-19 variant, and new evidence has revealed that the Omicron variant of the coronavirus was already present in Western Europe well before the first cases were officially identified in Southern Africa. Authorities in the Netherlands said that it detected the variant in test samples as early as November 19th, a full week before the positive cases detected last Friday among passengers who arrived in Amsterdam on a flight from South Africa. Health officials in Japan and France also confirmed their first cases of Omicron, joining a growing list of nations including Britain, Canada, Scotland, Australia, Austria, Spain and Sweden. The emergent and rapid spread of Omicron has prompted Stefan Bancel, the chief executive of pharmaceutical giant Moderna, to warn that the world's existing COVID-19 vaccines may be less effective against the new variant compared to Delta and other earlier variants. The Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions has launched a guide in the criminal justice system to assist prosecutors when handling cases involving children. Speaking during the launch of the program at the Prosecution Training Institute in Nairobi, DPP Nurdin Haji said the guide will ensure fairness to children who come into conflict with the law and guarantee protection of their rights during the trial process. He stated that there are instances where children have been tried as adults and where their rights have been violated, as well as being charged for petty crimes and ended up being deprived of their liberty without due regard to the circumstances that brought them into the criminal justice system. Now, Lesotho's Prime Minister Lesotho's former Prime Minister Thomas Thabane has been charged with the 2017 murder of his estranged wife Lipolelo Thabane. His current wife Mesia was charged with the same crime last year. She was living with Mr. Thabane at the time of the killing, and they are accused of hiring hitmen. They have both denied any involvement. Mr. Thabane stepped down in May 2020 following months of pressure after he was named as a suspect. And 3 students have been killed and 8 others injured, including a teacher in a high school shooting in the U.S. state of Michigan. Officials say a 16-year-old boy and 2 girls aged 14 and 17 died. Police allege the suspect, a pupil at the school, used a handgun that his father had bought days earlier. Police received emergency calls from the high school in the town of Oxford, about 65 kilometers from Detroit. Officials say the suspect, a 15-year-old boy, surrendered 5 minutes after police were called. No shots were fired during the arrest, and the teenager was not injured. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
There's some traffic on Mombasa Road this morning. We're looking at it right at that Imara Daima stretch, guys, because of the construction. So the road has moved a couple of meters inward, so that makes things a little bit tighter. It doesn't look too pretty, folks, at all. And so we're seeing traffic inbound and then connecting with the southern bypass. This was your go-to road in terms of escape from the Mombasa Road traffic, but there's a little bit of it there. The ICD route also not looking so bad right now, so there's an option for you to use. Langata Road is quite packed as well, getting into the CBD. Uhuru Highway through and through from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands today, feeding off of all those little roads that then come in from the city centre. What are we looking at? The eastern part of the city, industrial area, then going towards Donholm. At the interchange, quite a lot of traffic there as well. Thika Superhighway, boom, 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 with a lot of traffic. Kiambu Road as well. We're looking at that quite tight. Coming off of Limuru Road in that whole area, going towards Whispers, Gigiri. There's a lot of traffic then trying to get into the city centre. You need some patience this morning, guys. Please use it. And you do that, use your bypasses as well. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
Good morning to you.
Room.
It's 8 minutes after 8 on this lovely first day of December 2021. Happy December from wherever you're tuned in into Spice FM around the country, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, all around the world on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. And you're also live every weekday morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on KTN Home. We begin this hour, like we always do, with the day's proverb.
Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu. Okay. In English?
You cannot put on a shoe on someone who is running.
Someone is already running.
They're running.
They're running.
And then you give yourself this enormous task of trying to ensure that you shorten some shoes on their feet. That's not a tall order. It's an impossibility.
Indeed.
One that you cannot really get into.
You won't. I mean, and then, of course, there are the questions which arise. Do you imagine the person who's running without shoes does not know that they're running without shoes?
Well.
And what makes you think they need the shoes?
Shoes are important to you.
Yes.
Not to them.
Precisely. And who says you need shoes to run?
All those things. Maisha ya wenyewe wachana nayo. We have two guests joining us in the studio this morning. Roslyn Mkabana is the head of the GBV unit at the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and this is the gender-based violence unit at the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. And then we also have a guest from Save the Children, Lois Geteru, who's a child protection officer. Good morning, ladies. Good morning, Lois.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Karibu sana, Roslyn.
Karibu, asante nashukuru.
We choose one. Karibu ama asante?
Karibu.
Okay.
Asante.
Nashukuru.
Nashukuru.
Bas. Let him deal with it.
Wholesale.
Yes, ndio. Sasa chaguo la mtangazaji.
Okay. So we are in the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and this begins on the 25th of November, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, running until the 10th of December, Human Rights Day. These 16 days are active days to have a conversation about ending gender-based violence. Our president in the Republic of Kenya has made a commitment, and he said, I'm not the government, but me. But now he made a commitment on behalf of the government that the government of Kenya would like to see an end, complete end to gender-based violence in the country by 2026. How far are we with that? It's a conversation that now is happening in this country, in terms of what is happening. Let's start with you, Roslyn. At the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, at the gender-based violence desk, what do you do?
Thank you so much. I coordinate and implement the activities within Nairobi County to ensure that we have services ongoing, response, awareness creation, and issues to do with monitoring and evaluation of the same services. And at that rate, it means then we need to know whether we have health facilities responding on time. We need to know whether we are doing good creation of awareness within the community and serving the people that is required, and also to make sure that the community is also responsive on time to ensure that they are able to bring survivors of sexual and gender-based violence within the facilities and also link to access to justice. We also go all the way to ensure that in the event that a survivor needs to be removed from the environment, that we can be able to put that survivor in a safe space and shelter. And that goes with having policies and structures that have been put in place. I know you're aware the other day we assented to our sexual and gender-based violence prevention and management bill of 2019. It was assented the other day, and it's now an act. This is a guiding framework for us.
At the County Assembly of Nairobi.
At the County Assembly of Nairobi. This is a guiding structure that will enable us to ensure that whatever the president committed to, we can be able to, it is enshrined within our act, and we can be able to implement the services, looking at how well do we have the resources, do we have the HR, and have we put budgets, and then holding the members of the county assembly accountable, and also our leadership in NMS to ensure that services are provided as required and implementation of the same.
The array of services that I heard you mention mostly relate to addressing or responding to gender-based violence, to incidences that have already taken place. Now, what are you doing to take us towards ending gender-based violence by 2026?
Currently, at the moment, as I had said earlier, we have structures within the community. And in the community, we are taking community initiatives. We have the church, the faith community initiatives that we have been able to provide awareness creation through capacity building. We are working with the children's, the department. We are working with CSOs within the community. We have gender defenders and we have paralegals. These are the people on the ground that we are capacity building to identify on time and to also create awareness on being able to be responsive enough to understand what gender-based violence is and to be able to make the community understand its role, because we cannot do this without working with the community. So that is where then comes in that we need to have funds for the community awareness, because that's the only way we'll be able to end gender-based violence. And by making the community understand the worst part of gender-based violence.
Right. we're hearing the calls. I think this year on the 16 days of activism is end gender-based violence now. Right? So we're saying now. And I liken it to when you're speaking to a child and they may be doing something kind of over and over and again, you say, stop it. And they continue and you say, stop it. And then they continue. But when you say stop it now, then the stopping is immediate. So it seems as though we're saying the message would be, Lois, that we've been talking about this for years and years and years. We've put things into play. Countries have come together. People have said, you know, this thing that we're looking at really is worse than you would want to imagine. So it's almost as though there is satisfaction with what has been happening with gender-based violence. And then the call is to say, stop it today. Everybody come together and let's get very serious about this thing and stop it now. Not when you feel like it or when you're ready to put things in place or when you're ready to throw some money at it, but stop it now. So, Lois, what needs to happen for this to stop now? Because it seems as if we've talked about it for too long.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lois Giteru from Save the Children. As Save the Children in the stopping it now. What are we doing and what is happening right now? So the first thing we need to normalize is that one, violence is happening. And we all acknowledge that violence is happening. And we agree that people need to learn and accept that it's okay to report. Because you realize that the data we have right now, majority of it, most people who've gone through violence, they don't report. So we, Save the Children, we are promoting, or we let people know that there are toll-free lines, like 116 for the children. And we have the GBV line, which is 1195. And also we have 800-720-216, which is our toll-free in Save the Children, where people can report. So if people reported, we will be able to disable the perpetrators. Because when you keep quiet, you enable the perpetrators.
Isn't it a little bit more difficult than that? And maybe also, Rosen, to say, because, again, looking at that data, so we're saying 1 in every 3 women at some point in their lives has been abused. 2 out of every 3 women, so we're looking at 66%, right? Having been going through this violence at one point in one form or another. But then we're saying only 1/10 of these women are reporting to police or to any other kind of authority. The disparity is huge. But then we also have many issues that come into play whereby somebody may have been abused, somebody may have been beaten, and the community or family steps in and says, don't take this matter forward. How do you then deal with things like that? Because you talk about community involvement, but the community seems to be involved in keeping it quiet.
Thank you. I think the community has a role, and a very big role in that, because they're the ones who will either condone or condemn the activities that are being done within a violation family-wise. Again, as we have said, you've used the word now, which is our theme. How then do we ensure that it happens now? We have talked about people not reporting. Why aren't they reporting? And that's why we have come up with a multi-sectoral coordination mechanism that comes from the county leadership itself, going through up to the community and the ward level, where we have, as I had said earlier, we have the paralegals, we have the gender defenders, we have the community health volunteers who are very key. So they are the ones we have capacity built to ensure that they are able to pick the survivor on time, or they are able to go back to the community and create awareness on identifying, on giving them, identifying the signs and symptoms that this is a violation. You need to report now. And when you're reporting, this is where you need to go. So what have we done then? We have mapped out organizations that we work with within the Nairobi County. We have mapped out in the sub-county levels the structures that we have in place of gender technical working groups to ensure that this can be able to have a structure that goes up to the county leadership. And again, as I've said, this cannot work without the resources that have to come from the government. So much as we talk about now, it needs to be like yesterday. We need to have passed that. And we can't continue But then what happened? COVID came. And the numbers shot up. Not because anybody thought about it. We all thought, let us have a lockdown. We had the lockdown. Let us close schools. We closed schools. Who sat down and asked that how are we working with these people that we are locking down? What has been the trend? Where are we? So we have families, and I'm looking at the informal settlements, where a mother of 5, let me give you an example of a mother who has 5 children. In the morning, all these children go to school. She doesn't need to pay for a toilet because she's in the informal slums. But during the lockdown, it meant that she had to pay for all her 5 children. You paid 10 shillings, 10 shillings, 10 shillings as a budget for use of a toilet. So that is a vulnerability that we did not look into. So we can look at it and say even schools are safe spaces. But this was something that we did not envision. So we allowed things to go in, not because we wanted, but because we had this monster COVID that most of us were trying to understand. But we did not think it was a risk and a vulnerability to escalating cases of gender-based violence.
You know, this discussion, let me tell you where I'm coming from. We seem to discuss informal settlements as something that should actually exist. We discuss them as though it's a normal thing that we've come to accept, embrace. So why do we have informal settlements in the first place? Must we have informal settlements? No. It's not you. The reason why I'm asking this question is because we are dealing with a symptom and not the problem. Okay? If these informal settlements were different, this discussion would also be completely different. Why is it that we do not have this discussion when we're talking about public-owned property like county houses? Why? And why are we saying that these people who are in the lower strata, who form, in the lower brackets of income earning, why are we saying that where they live must continuously be this? And it grows. It's not as though it's one place and it stops. No, it grows. Why? Why? Who benefits from this situation as it is, and why is it that we are not addressing the real issue? I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about what needs to be done in the short term, but that will never be the solution to this particular problem.
True. It will not be.
How much worse, Lois, did things get because of COVID when it comes to the GBV? I mean, we know that it increased. We saw many things. And one of the results of GBV in some cases is pregnancy. We saw the rates of pregnancy shoot through the roof in the last 18 months, 2 years, you know. So in terms of percent, maybe not specific percentages, but how much worse did GBV get in the country with COVID?
So, according to the GBV hotline, during COVID time, the GBV cases and violations shot at 92% compared to latter years. And that shows that, as Rosa said, you realize when people are locked down, one, there was loss of livelihood. People and children got exploited sexually so as they could be able to get basic needs. That is food, shelter, and also even getting to survival for the children. You also realize that these children were also locked in together with their perpetrators. So as much as we're saying that 92%, that was reported, but you realize also there are people who never reported because, one, how do I report, and yet the person who is perpetrating me is the person who is providing for me. So you realize during COVID there was so many violations which happened, and especially for children, and as a result you can see the numbers of teenage pregnancies are shot to over 13,000 in Nairobi County. That is as a result of what we had during the COVID session. Yes.
Let's take a break at this point. 23 minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. It's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And this year's theme is Orange the World, End Violence Against Women Now. Kenya has committed to end gender-based violence by 2026. The president has said, in fact, we are rededicating a lot of our efforts, our budgetary allocation. The Nairobi Metropolitan Service is working on this, and that's why we have the head of the GBV unit at NMS, Rosalind Mkabana, in the studio, and Lois Kiteru, who's a child protection officer at Save the Children. We are talking about what needs to be done so that this can be realized. and gender-based violence. Now, the conversation continues on SpiceFM shortly after we take this quick break. We are on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and we are live streaming the show online.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Entertainment at your fingertips, in your home, wherever you need it. That's the Showmax promise. Join me, Orlando Mulo and DJ Absolute, on Sugar and Spice from 11 a.m. every weekday to learn about all the movies, documentaries, TV shows, sports, and music that Showmax has to offer, including how you can get yourself a 1-month free subscription this Black Friday. Showmax is all you need this festive season, and we'll tell you why.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi, 23 will be the high today, lows of 15. At 16 degrees, it's cloudy in Nakuru, highs of 24 and lows of 12. 23 will be the high in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 17, coming down to lows of 13. Mostly cloudy conditions at 17 in Eldoret, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Mombasa is mostly sunny at 27, highs of 32 and lows of 25. And Malindi is cloudy at 27, highs of 31 and lows of 26. We're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu at 22, highs of 28 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, it's cloudy at 22. It'll come down to lows of 16. Partly sunny conditions at 21 in Kampala. 25 will be the high and lows of 18. While in Dar es Salaam, it continues to rain at 27, highs of 30 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is sunny at 18, highs of 27 and lows of 16. And we're looking at partly cloudy conditions in Lagos at 25 with highs of 34. It'll come down to lows of 25. Heavy thunderstorms this morning in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 23.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field, it's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country forward.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Mombasa Road outbound. What on earth is going on is the question today. All right, so we see that there is some construction going on right around that Imara Daima, which, yes, it was not planned for. So what does that mean? It means tailback traffic all the way past Airtel today, and it doesn't look pretty at all, folks. Anybody outbound on Mombasa Road today is suffering from this. Inbound, not so bad, but the build-up around Imara Daima is a thing of nightmares this morning. Right now, that means that we're looking at one lane just past General Motors, then all the way through to Imara Daima. This is what is causing the traffic this morning. Plus, added to that construction, there's an accident that took place just ahead of Cabanas, and it doesn't look pretty either. So this means that it's going to slow down. So what happens is that everybody then coming from the Likoni interchange and then trying to join Mombasa Road is stuck in this morning. That's what's causing the mess up ahead. Nothing we can do about it right now, save sit tight and hope that gets sorted out as quickly as possible. All right, so also looking at traffic on the Thika Superhighway, no accident there, just your normal Wednesday morning traffic, which has built up quite some. Into the CBD is where all roads are leading today. And we're looking at a manic Wednesday. They say when you touch Mombasa Road, the rest of Nairobi gets a headache. And that's what we're looking at right now. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. What do you see? Let us know. Text on 40127.
So at 29 minutes after 8, this is Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's remind you about Showmax. If you subscribe to Showmax today, you get an extra 1 month free. If you just subscribe to Showmax today, you get an extra 1 month free. And you can get a free 14-day trial. Don't get charged until the trial period ends, and you can just subscribe by M-Pesa or at your existing DSTV subscription. Now, what do you get with the Showmax? You get access to Showmax on 5 different devices. It can be laptop, PC, smartphone, smart TV, Chromecast, or a gaming console, and then you get access to all the premium content. And this is good Showmax content, whether it's your favorite TV shows, a series, or it's live football or live sporting action, or you get to watch any of your favorite movies, whatever you want. Any of the 3 packages that you can choose from: Showmax Mobile, Showmax Pro, or Showmax Pro Mobile.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
The conversation continues at 8:30 right here on SpiceFM, KTN Home and online. Our guests this morning: Roslyn Mkabana, head of GBV unit at the Nairobi Metropolitan Service, and Lois Giteru, child protection officer, Save the Children, being hosted by Eric Latiff, Okoh, and CT Muga.
Save the Children.
Yes.
Why Save the Children as a name?
Save the Children. Why are we called Save the Children? It's because we support, in all our programming, we support the child. The child is our heartbeat. So in every programming we have, we make sure that children are protected, are taken care of. For example, we have a project called JFA, Joining Forces Alliance. This is a project which we are currently implementing in Nairobi, that is in Kibra and Mathare sub-counties. And what we do is to make sure that we end violence against children and make sure that children also enjoy their rights. So in that program, we make sure that we support the government in what they're doing through capacity building. We support teachers on psychological first aid so as they can be able to know how to address issues of violence in their schools. And we also provide parenting without violence programming for parents so as we can also end violence back at home, and life skills sessions for children so as to know how to shout when they are going through violence and how to make decisions, good decisions as they grow. So we also realize that in part of our program we talk about maternal health, we talk about immunizations, we talk about food security, all this in line and the best interest of the child.
So from what you say, you seem to choose locations and areas of residence where people are basically economically challenged.
I would want to correct that. That is only one project, but we have other projects.
I actually asked it as a question.
Yes.
Okay, but carry on.
Yes. So we have other projects in places like Turkana, Bungoma, Wajir, Mandera.
And is this among the well-to-do?
In Nairobi have a bit of well-to-do.
And Bungoma, Turkana?
Bungoma is not badly off.
The reason why I'm asking this question, I understand that if the parents of a child have economic issues, the likelihood of that problem trickling down to the child is greater. So perhaps these children would need more focus. But the problem that children have are not necessarily monopolized by this particular sector of society. What I'm actually asking is, people who don't fall into that category of individuals who live in economically impoverished circumstances, what programs do you have for them?
For those people who are not in those...
who are not poor.
We support them. If you're not able to reach to you through our programs, like in person, we support them through activities which will support like Nairobi County. When you support Nairobi County activity, you're not supporting specifically for like Mathare or Kibra. So if you support like the county health clinics, we support like the whole of Nairobi County. When you support activities in Bungoma County, we are supporting for every child who is in Bungoma County. And also something like okay, we still go back to Turkana. We are yet to get to maybe Runda and Karen. But when you're supporting the counties where they're hosted, we are supporting them at that area.
Why Turkana, not Marsabit?
Oh, we still have a program in Samburu which rolls over to Marsabit.
You know, you can't be everywhere. I understand this.
Yeah.
But what I'm actually asking is, there is a criteria you use for choosing the places you work in.
Yes.
What is that criteria?
The criteria we mostly look at, if you hear the counties we're talking about, like Turkana, Wajir, you realize we have issues of food security. When you come to Nairobi and we look at Mathare and Kibra, we find that issues to do with child violation of their rights, they are rising, and also Bungoma. Bungoma has also been featured when it comes to teenage pregnancies among the 4 counties in Kenya right now who have high numbers of teenage pregnancy. So you look as Save the Children, we are looking at aspects of child survival which are affecting those counties, and they are on the rise, and we take our programs there.
Statistically, Lois, over the last, say, 10, 15 years, has there been a reduction or is it an increase in the number of gender-based violence on women and children in all the areas that you work?
I will say that issues of gender violence, they have increased. And why have they increased? Because one, there is low consumptions in terms of gender-based violence awareness. And that's why we are coming in as an organization to create this awareness and let people know that, one, there are policies in place which will protect the survivors. And also, you realize that also due to cultural practices, like the places we work, we have issues of child marriage, which also contribute to part of the gender violence, gender-based violence, whereby we have harmful cultural practices. So you realize as we continue to, as we are celebrating these 16 days of activism, we are looking forward to creating that awareness to these people and making them know, one, it's okay to report, and also making them know that these things are happening. And the reason why maybe sometimes you realize, as much as we would say, making a lot of noise in courts, or like talking much about it, and the violences are not going down, is because also the cultural practices, and also a bit of African culture. You realize, being in a patriarchal society, women are disadvantaged. Why are we disadvantaged as women? Is because sometimes we would look for it where men can use the power they have to protect women. Yeah, so we continue making noise. We continue talking about gender-based violence.
So a lot of activities have taken place.
Yes.
By Save the Children and other organizations in awareness creation, in all this community engagement. But you're saying that you've seen a rise in the number of cases of GBV. Would you say the same has happened in Nairobi, Rosalie?
Yes, I would attribute that, but I also want to put it that people are also reporting. Because of the awareness creation, we might be getting the numbers rising because we have created awareness that you can now report. We might not be having very high numbers, but then the awareness creation that you can now report can be supporting us to know that maybe we have the big numbers. I'm looking at it, also looking at the issue on teenage pregnancies in terms of, like, today is our World AIDS Day, actually. And the theme we are working with is also End Teenage Pregnancy, towards elimination of inequalities and new HIV infections and komesha mimba za utotoni. So when you look at that and you will link it again with the theme for the 16 days of activism, where we are saying end violence against women and girls now, and it comes in play because then the teenage pregnancies, we see it is like a violation of the girls' rights, and HIV is one of the consequences of gender-based violence. So yes, because we have created a lot of toll-free numbers that people can call.
So there's now more awareness, there are more avenues and channels for reporting.
For reporting, yes.
But we are not seeing a decidedly decreased number of incidences.
Not really.
Okay.
Not
So,
really.
and that's where my question is, if with all these efforts that have been made with legislation, with policy, with pronouncements at the highest level of government, why are we still seeing an increase in the number? Yet even today we are saying end gender-based violence now.
For me, I think the strategies that we've been using, we might not have really be there, because we have always thought that GBV is a female issue. At what level did we then sit down and say, how about engaging the men? Just to see whether the men can now be protectors and not perpetrators. Bring them on board so that they can be able to understand what it is that they need to support us in to ensure that they end violence. Because at all times, it's always the women who are seen to be reporting. I'm just looking at the numbers that we have had within our facilities with the last quarter, compared to men again who report and compared to the women. We had about, the last quarter we had about 4,500 cases that were reported within our health facilities. But
Nairobi?
This is at our KHIS data. Yeah. But when you look at the number of men reporting, you'll find there are about 500. So again, the issue that men's health, men's behavior in terms of accessing health can also be a hindrance in the way they actually look at GBV. So how then can we as a county come up with strategies that will fully engage the men? Because one thing we are noticing is that the men who always talk about gender-based violence are the same men. The other day we had International Men's Day. We commemorated it in Kamkunji. It was us, the women, who were there. Now I'm putting it, we men were there. The men themselves were not there. So they are yet to appreciate themselves.
Did they even know that there was a day dedicated for them?
Yes, they did, but because it was the same day with the toilet day. So
they were dealing with toilet
So they were
issues.
dealing with...
For me, when you say things like that, then for me, it casts imagery then on the real situation. Because here we are then dealing with very many cases where people are violated and there's violence meted upon people across the age. So could it be that it is not taken seriously at the point of even something as terrible as raping a young girl, for example, or and other things that we see throughout relationships, that is not taken seriously? Even when it is taken to authorities, a lot of times we hear this very sad message of, okay, it's something that you can go and work out. Perhaps even at the point of authority, whereby nothing is done to the perpetrators, it sends a very loud message to others whereby, all right, even if you were to do this, nothing would necessarily happen to you. How do we take it seriously if we don't even have ways of dealing with these issues?
May I pepper what you've said just a little bit?
Absolutely.
Look at the concept, as a concept, an idea of corruption in this country, and look at the reality of how it is. We understand corruption and relate to it. We don't actually dislike or abhor corruption. No. There are pockets of corruption that we not only accommodate, but we are okay with. There are also aspects of corruption, depending on who perpetrates it, that we are okay with. And there are things we are not willing to admit are corrupt practices, yet they are. But we are all unified in condemning corruption. So the one word that we all unified in talking about is corruption. But are we talking about the same thing when we talk about corruption? No. So now let's bring it to gender-based violence.
There's a normalization that we need to actually move away from. And this normalization, and it normally comes in, especially when it's to do with incestuous relationships, intimate partner violence. Where, like in the faith community initiatives, I am married to a pastor. I am undergoing intimate partner violence, but I'm not able to talk about it because my husband is at that hierarchy. How then would I go and report him? How will I be seen? Those are the things that we need to bring out.
It's not a matter that is recognized, because here we are, and we would think erroneously so that it is a matter that you want to take out of the urban centers. But today, and then also, in as much as we talk about men having to be involved in the conversation, a lot of the people who keep these same conversations under wraps are women. That we stand in the place or rather are the stumbling block to some of these things being opened up. A girl is violated, and the question that comes out of the mouth of somebody who you would think was educated and enlightened about some of these things is, what were you wearing? Or why were you out at 10 o'clock? Or in which area were you? Somebody takes an issue of having been molested or violated by her intimate partner, and her mother or her senior auntie will ask her, what did you do? Those are the things that are actually posing as stumbling blocks to ending some of this violence now.
Who are the gatekeepers of our cultures? No, I'm asking, who are the gatekeepers of our cultures? Because the role that women play is understood, but on whose behest are they acting? I'm not kicking the can down the road. Who is it that upholds these values? Because it is part of our culture. Who is it that upholds these values that we're talking about? This culture we have of not saying things that we consider shameful, things that we don't consider acceptable.
And we don't speak it out.
Yes. Who are the gatekeepers? Silent and vocal, who are they? At what point is it considered that you have broken the tradition and it's not the norm? I'm asking this because I worked in the field of HIV for a very long time. And when we're dealing with this issue of discordant couples, really slippery slope, and it came to somebody who is a man of the cloth, the conversations there were absolutely interesting. Because as a person of the cloth, this is not something that they should even relate or even... The reference of HIV to them, and you're thinking, but you're a human being, for heaven's sake. Why should you not talk about it? Then you take it further. Somebody is in a same-sex relationship. And again, they are people of the cloth. Now, this one, you don't even know where to begin talking about it. And yet, you know it's coming out. Because this person is HIV positive. And when you talk to them, you realize that the relationship they have is not necessarily with the wife, but with a man. Now, how do you manage this? Now, so the question I'm asking, who are the gatekeepers of our values? And in every community, who are the gatekeepers?
I think, as I had said earlier, when you come to African community, it's very patriarchal, and you find like men have a role when it comes to such issues on who, for example, when a woman is violated and she goes and tells other people, she's told as a woman, you're supposed to keep quiet. When a child is violated, you're told you are shaming the perpetrator. So you realize that if you're able to get through the gatekeepers, and this situation seems, or rather it's the men, because the hierarchy runs like the men are they're like the mantle bearers. So, and as Rose said, that we need to have men in this conversation. If you're able to let them protect us with that same power they have, we are not going to challenge their power as men in the society, but then let the power they have as the gatekeepers to protect the women and the girls we have against violence, that then will be able to reduce the numbers. And also you realize the biggest percent, like 80% of the cases of GBV, you find that the men are the perpetrators. So they're the gatekeepers. And when you come to the perpetration, they're still leading. So what about if you have conversation with them and let them know that you can protect us, you can protect the women?
Do you know where women come into this conversation in my mind? In our cultures, who is it who looks after and brings up children?
The women.
It's the women. I mean, there's a story of the men and the fathers and what. Yeah. It's a story. It is the women.
It's the mothers.
It's the mothers. It's not even complicated. And it is the reason why you find that in our society, the affinity that people have towards their mothers is infinitely greater. It's not that they don't love their fathers, but you reap what you sow. You...
So there have been many efforts across board. Organizations, government, society at large, communities, families. I mean, you name it. Take a stab at anybody has been involved in this conversation and mitigation efforts to bring this thing under. But we're seeing the opposite. Why, with all the efforts that have been made over the last how many years, are we still seeing that these numbers are rising in the manner in which they are rising? It's not as though nobody's doing anything. We're talking about it. We're putting initiatives in place. We're having conversations with the gatekeepers of community. We're doing over and over. We're commemorating this
that there's
day.
no awareness.
It's not like there's no awareness. There is. Every now and then, maybe somebody will get arrested. They get let go. But things are being done. However, and unfortunately, the structure of these crimes, because that's what it is. The structure of these crimes is becoming even more dangerous. It's becoming bolder and bolder. That people are basically doing it and walking away scot-free. And even almost asking the question, what are you going to do? Why is it getting worse? In the light of all the effort that has been made across board. Why?
I don't want to say it's getting worse. I just think we have created awareness and the reporting has come out. We are able to know that it's happening. Something that was not there before 2007. I think it was the post-election violence brought us out to discover what GBV is all about. So yes, with all these efforts that we have put in, and we are still putting in, we need to empower the community itself to be able to be their own community-owned resource persons, to be able to know how far or what is this that we need to, that we do not need to normalize. And even just for them to be their own gatekeepers, to understand the nature that GBV is not normal. Because we have sort of left it, okay, GBV has been seen as a CSO-led program, such that now we are going to the ground to localize it. I'm looking at that because we're just going into the electoral preparedness now. Elections are coming up. What do we need to do so that we don't need to we do not need to see the numbers we saw during the repeat or the elections of 2017. We need to guard against that. But that can only be done when our community is aware on its own that we do not have to do these things. That we are able, if in the event that it happens, this is where I need to go.
So who do you need to engage that? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. It's because I've said it many times before here. We have laws, we have policies, we've got programs being run by government, by CSOs on gender and sexual-based violence. Yet we still see these cases, right? And every time we have this conversation, it's always, we need to tighten the law. We need to come with stricter penalties. We need to come with, engage the perpetrators who are likely to be the men in the community. Are we really engaging as a community honestly? Or are we going to a community and saying, you know what, there's a law that says this is wrong and you should stop doing it? Because if we do that, then we are not actually addressing the issue. The other day, there was a story in the Star about married men in Embu coming out to the media and complaining that they are undergoing gender-based violence. Was there any response and reaction to that? What kind of reaction did we get from the community? People are laughing. What is it that they say about men in Nyeri? That they've been subdued by their women. Do we look at it the same way if it was the women of Nyeri coming out to complain that, they are undergoing violence from their men at home? We don't treat it the same. So as organizations, as government, when you're saying that we need to empower the community, what exactly do we mean by that?
Let me not use the word we need because we are already empowering the community. It's just that we need to, what is the uptick that is there? And most of the examples that you've given of the Nyeri men and the Embu, those stereotypes, way of looking at men who are undergoing violence or normalizing the masla way of handling cases within some communities. We are looking at it now in a broad aspect that why are you doing it at your level? Because then it also has to come from the family level itself. Because much as we go to the community, the family still remains the focal the focal unit that needs to bring out the issues of sexual and gender-based violence. But how often do we talk to our children about sexual and gender-based violence? How often do we provide them with the appropriate information using the appropriate languages that are within that time? We are the same people that when we have brought out our adolescent and reproductive health framework to support these issues, then the church comes in and says, no, you cannot go beyond this because you will be teaching children issues of sex. Yet we are talking about sex and sexuality. But at a certain point, that conversation needs to start. When you come home and find your own maybe young boy or your young son having sex, how are you going to take it? Will you tell him, Najua, that is wrong, daddy, haungefanya hivyo? You need then to tell him, do you need to use a condom?
I'm asking you this question. Do you have a program that deals with this the faith-based setups, the churches and what have you, because they are a voice that people listen to. And are they engaged adequately so that they can support the very things that you are saying? Remember the story I was telling you about? We actually understood that the only way we were going to talk at the same level with the church or the religious groups was to bring in religious people into the organization. So we actually had a situation where we had an ordained pastor as somebody whom we worked with. And he was the key person who would now reach out. And we found the success was great because one of them was talking to them about these things. There is no way a problem such as the one we're discussing, which is probably profound, can be solved just with one, should we say, solution. It has to be multi-pronged. But even as we talk about it being multi-pronged, you know, this sense of community, we keep using this word, but we seem to, at least in my mind, when I talk community, I'm drawing from a rural setup and a situation which doesn't really quite exist. Or it exists in a...
It changed a long time ago.
Yes. Now, what about the ones in the city? Should the effort not be to make these communities more cohesive first? Because if they are cohesive, then when you talk about a community engagement program, it becomes easier. Because you assume they are cohesive. Are they?
Actually, we have picked up on the... I talked about the faith community initiatives. And this encompasses all the religions. Actually, we have tried. We already have a community initiative. And this has even given us leeways to be allowed to go and talk in churches, where we have even agreed and have specifics who we have now like champions who can go out and talk about matters of gender-based violence. So this is an initiative that started 2 years ago, and it has taken place because we are now getting invites to even go and talk in churches and get from the church perspective what they think or how do they need to handle issues of gender-based violence. And yes, as you said, it is in the church where people always run to when they have such violations. So then we needed, and that's why from that background we were able to sit down with them and agree this is how, and then we have actually taken through a capacity building on a sensitization that is almost a week to be able for them to also come up with their own, not us imposing, but them coming up with their own structures on how will they handle matters of GBV within the faith-based organizations.
Indeed.
And that is, it's working, albeit slow, but we are there.
We're going to be seeing progress, hopefully, in coming days and coming years as we head towards 2026, when we should have no cases of gender-based violence in the country, as committed by the government. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies, today. And as you continue with the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, just know that SpiceFM is a partner on these conversations. Roslyn Mkabana is the head of GBV unit at the Nairobi Metropolitan Services, and Lois Giteru is a child protection officer at the Save the Children. It's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Participate in this and let's all commit to ending gender-based violence. Now, 3 minutes to 9, the conversation continues on Spice FM, but it's time for us to say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
No, you know, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in Makueni?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel in Kericho, good morning.
Salama sana Eric, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Seriousness Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Seriousness Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile juma nampambia nini? Amalize aende.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So the conversation continues into the next hour. We will be talking about the state of the Horn of Africa. So what's happening in the region? We know there's situations in Somalia, there's situations in Kenya, there's situations in Ethiopia, in Southern Sudan. What's happening in the Horn of Africa? This is a conversation we'll be having in the next hour. State of the Horn. We'll be joined by two people who actually understand this because they've been playing in this space. Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues, and also we want to open up the phone lines for you to participate in the conversations, 0719-012-600, or you can join the conversations on our social media platforms, SpiceFM KE, where we live stream the show on Facebook, SpiceFM KE on Twitter, SpiceFM KE also on YouTube. A very good morning to you. Happy December, World AIDS Day. It's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has maintained that his government has seen the implementation of devolution across the country open up the nation and the development and business. It says that as the government that was tasked to implement the constitutional requirement of devolution has managed to open up the post-sleepy towns to vibrancy and business.
Honorable members, there are many more testimonials on how accelerating the formation of county structures and supporting them with skilled personnel, resources and legislation has embedded devolution in the last 8 years. Once sleepy towns across the country have now roared back into life, driving not just grand infrastructure projects, but also tangible increases in household incomes of ordinary Kenyans.
Meanwhile, today, Nakuru town will boast the status of a city, becoming the fourth in the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta said he will confer the county with a city status when he will make a visit there today. The head of state said Nakuru municipality is expected to exponentially grow in all sectors following the new city status that will translate into increased standards of living.
Mr. Speakers, as devolution takes root and as an affirmation of the equitable development we continue to enjoy, and in keeping with the resolution of the Senate, I will have the high privilege of conferring on Nakuru municipality city status. Nakuru City will join Kisumu, Mombasa and Nairobi as cities, and with their reputation as East Africa's cleanest town, all of Kenya looks forward to Nakuru City growing by leaps and bounds.
The government is still on track to provide 100% universal health coverage for essential health services. President Uhuru Kenyatta in his State of the Nation address urged the Senate to expedite the consideration of the National Hospital Insurance Fund Amendment Bill 2021, recently passed by the National Assembly, so that all join in ushering universal health coverage. Regarding affordability of healthcare, President Kenyatta noted that Kenya has the highest budgetary allocation for health in East Africa, which currently stands at 121.1 billion shillings for the year 2021. On the uptake of the National Health Insurance Fund, the President noted that the membership has steadily grown with 10.5 million members, up from just 4 million members in 2013, an increase of 163%. Kenyatta University and Aura Quick HIV Self-Test have partnered and are hosting a HIV Self-Test Awareness Camp as the world prepares to hold the World AIDS Day today. The Awareness Camp is part of the university's initiatives to drive the HIV prevention agenda, with 42% of the new adult infections being among the youth. National AIDS and STIs Control Program's Jonah Onentia noted that this self-help kit has the potential to improve uptake of HIV testing by individuals who fear breaches of confidentiality. Over 1,000 students were trained on how to use the Aura Quick HIV self-test kit, which is available at local pharmacies for 250 shillings. Aura Quick HIV self-test is the only HIV self-testing kit that is readily available in the Kenyan market. Now, former Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Chief Executive Officer Halake Wako is among new entrants to the Orange Democratic Movement Party. Wako, together with former party leader of the Economic Freedom Party Hassan Nur Hassan and the Mandera County Woman Representative Amina Gedo, defected to the ODM. Hassan, who is the Chief Administrative Secretary of Education, said he will be seeking to vie for the gubernatorial seat under an ODM ticket. Police in Olmoran Kirima, sub-county of Laikipia County, have launched a manhunt for several herders suspected to have carried out an attack that seriously injured a local administrator. Gitima Sub-Location Assistant Chief Peter Washiuri, who was on a mission to resolve a dispute between herders and farmers, was caught off guard when the herders wielding weapons turned on him, attacked him with rungus and swords. According to Kirima Sub-County Deputy County Commissioner John Orata, the herders, suspected to be from a neighboring county, had driven their livestock into a fruit plantation, calling for the intervention of the chief. Now, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers has launched the Forestry Business Sustainability Action Plan that seeks to shed more light on the policy and legislative framework guiding the forestry sector in Kenya. Speaking during the launch at a Nairobi hotel, the Forestry Conservation Secretary Alfred Geshu said the government fully recognizes the role of private sectors in delivering the national aspirations in the forest sector. Geshu noted that the government has made a number of international commitments in regards to forestry, which relates to climate change, biodiversity conservation and combating desertification. And KCA University head coach Charles Goro is looking forward to an improved campaign next term in the lower league after a horrendous run this season that saw them get the chop from the Kenya Men Basketball Premier League. KCA, who finished their regular league matches with a loss to Thunder, managed to pick just one win in the entire campaign, and Goro is expecting his young team to improve with life in the lower division. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so it's terrible on Mombasa Road actually, and this is outbound traffic. It's an absolute mess today. We've been told that there's a section of the road that has been closed off right around Imara Daima for the construction to continue. 1. 2, there was a terrible accident that took place right around that same area. So we have people paying 1,000 shillings from Olesereni to Standard Group. It's not funny, and this is not in a taxi. It's on a border. Guys, it's really bad this morning, and that's what's causing it. It looks like it's going to be there with us for some time, and this is affecting inbound traffic as well. The southern bypass then, as you're trying to get away from this and get off past the Likoni interchange, that's not moving either. So our normal go-to escape is not working either this morning. In the middle of the week, this is not the way you'd like to start off the month, but this is what it looks like, and we know that it's affecting traffic in other parts. North Airport Road, the eastern bypass, and then Langata Road going into the city. Uhuru Highway jam-packed getting into the CBD as well. We're in the middle of traffic hour. It doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. We'll keep an eye on things. Help us out as well. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
Kenya's biggest conversation at 8 minutes after 9. How are you doing? A very good morning to you. First day of December. Happy World AIDS Day. C.T. Muga has the day's proverb.
Yes, huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu. Right.
Somebody who is running?
You cannot put shoes on him.
No, not really, you can't. But of course, it raises many other questions.
Very many interpretations of this. I've seen Julia on Twitter saying one of the other interpretations to this would be somebody who's a mjuaji, who's a know-it-all, you cannot tell them anything.
True.
They've already decided that they know what they need to do.
Yes.
You tell them about shoes, that's your story.
Precisely.
Not their story.
No, it isn't their story.
Yes.
No.
We have two guests who are joining us in the conversation. One of them will be joining us virtually shortly, but the other one is in the studio. Ambassador Ken Vitisia, he's a former ambassador to Burundi and special envoy to the International Conference on Great Lakes Region. Balozi, karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Asante. The Situation Room really looks cute. I've been watching it on TV and I said, these guys, they're really discussing things as they are.
Now that you're here in person, you actually now can feel the beauty.
I can feel the beauty. I can see the personalities who exude all the knowledge they have. And I'm here to share the little I have.
Tell us, because you've just done the traffic update, give us your own traffic experience this morning.
I'm telling you, your director, Mr. Obara, told me, do whatever it takes to be in the studio by 9 a.m. I'm at Sereni. The jam is packed. I tell my guy, Gili, who is driving, I tell Gili, hey, let me take a border. I get out, ask the border guy. He tells me, up there, even borders can't get. But for a K, I can get you to... I tell him I'm being told to do whatever it takes. So I tell the guy, get me there. If you do it before 9, the 1K you have. And you can see I'm here before 9, and so the guy is happy. Going to buy unga for the wife. So I've contributed to the economy also in another way.
Right. And your guy Gili will spend another 1,000 on fuel.
Yeah, my guy Gili is still in traffic. But today is when I really appreciated the borders. We take them for granted, but they are useful. They are useful in many times.
You know, the problem we have with them is not the utility factor. It's what we associate with them, the unruliness and their inability to somehow adhere to traffic norms. They ride, as you say, anyhowly.
But if you're a pillion passenger,
yes,
like Balozi was just a short while ago,
you
appreciate.
I appreciated all the rules we broke.
Yes.
I missed being hit by a few cars here and there, falling off several potholes, but I'm here.
Yes.
Do whatever
so
it
they
takes.
meet a need.
Yes.
They meet a need.
But you know, part of the problem, I think, also, is if I look at what they do, there is a certain strict adherence to training that people who actually drive cars have. Do they have a similar strict adherence for training on motorbike riders?
Yeah, I doubt. Because
I also doubt it.
Once you can be able to get and it moves from point A to B.
That's it.
That's it.
The rest are details.
The rest are details. That's why we have so many who are in hospital, cut limbs, broken heads.
You know, there are government hospitals where there are wards that are specifically set aside for motorbike riders.
There's a border ward.
Yes.
Remember, we had a conversation with the NTSA director the other day, and he was telling us they are rolling out very many programs to try and bring as many of the border riders on board as possible to get them into proper training, get them into proper licensing. Because also very many of them are not licensed to ride borders. Anyway, we are glad that you made it.
Asante sana.
Asante sana for joining us. Now, you've served as Kenya's ambassador to Burundi, special envoy to the International Conference, the Great Lakes Region. Yes. Too many errors and L's on this particular one. And we are seeing a lot of things happening in the region, in the Horn. And that's why we thought, okay, let's bring in somebody who has actually had the boots on the ground to come and just help us understand what's happening in the region. There's stuff happening in Somalia for many years. There's stuff happening in Ethiopia. Now it's actually escalating in Uganda.
Sudan.
In Sudan. In southern Sudan. All these things that are happening in this region, is it stuff that you'd say was, happening slowly? Was it a slow burning fuse? Or are there flare-ups? Or are they just escalating situations?
One of the things I mastered by saying is that the Great Lakes region, and particularly the Horn, has been an area of interest to the international community for long. The UN has been seized with all the happenings that are happening in the Great Lakes region, and particularly the Horn. And one of the attractions that people have so much interest in the region is the resources we have in this region. Many of the countries that have the resources are trying to build nation states. People are trying to find out, is there anything in this nation state for us? Is there inclusivity? Do the governments we propose to be under have a concept of shared prosperity? If those things are not addressed, then obviously we have issues where outside influencers come in, those who may want to reap from the resources we have by dividing us, they see a gap. So you find the Great Lakes region, particularly the Horn, there's always an external factor to what is happening. Yesterday I listened to President Uhuru very carefully. State of the nation. You cannot talk about the state of the nation in Kenya without talking about the state of the region. Kenya, by umbilical cord, is tied to what is happening in the region. We have been lucky. Perhaps the flare-ups that we had in 2007, 2017 did not result in all-out wars that we are seeing in Ethiopia. But it could have happened, because all these were a result of people feeling they don't belong. Our constitution that we, 2010, tried to address some of these issues where we say regions will feel they belong through our devolution. Devolution was meant to address so that if we are people in Northeastern, they don't necessarily need to look up to State House to say, hey, where is our cake? We give them their cake and they see how to divide it. This is addressing some of the issues that make people to take up arms against a central authority. But as Kenya, we are concerned with what is happening in the region. Kenya has grown because of what we do in the region.
Because of what we do in the region.
What we do in the region.
Okay.
We are a trusted. We are trusted in the region. I've been a special envoy in the region, but also I was ambassador to Burundi and co-facilitator to the Burundi peace process. I was Mkapa's co-facilitator. We don't say a lot what we do, but the peace Burundi is enjoying now, President Uhuru had a big hand in it. He personally, I was his lead man in Burundi. He personally saw to it that Burundi, the people of Burundi were able to talk. Within the EAC, if you go to Sudan, South Sudan, the comprehensive peace agreement is all Kenya. We actually made sure that there was peace in whatever.
We birthed the country.
We birthed the country. We midwifed it. Look at Kenya has been a host to so many refugees.
We still are.
Continues to be. Whether they were running away from Ujama. There were people who ran away actually from Ujama and came to Kenya from Tanzania. People came all the way from Malawi, Zambia, South Africa,
Zimbabwe,
Mozambique. We are seeing all these guys, the Msumbiji guys in Kenya. Somalia, we can't talk about. There are more Somalis Somalis in Kenya than there are Kenyan Somalis. These are all a result of Kenya having been a haven. But having been a haven also, we also attracted any investments that came to the region, either as services to take care of the refugees or support teams to the conflicts that were taking place in the region. All, if we wanted, financial services, Kenya became a natural host for all this. So our stability,
benefited.
yes, our stability, because of our stability. We were not an island, but because we were stable, we were able to attract investments. So, in spite of the fact that we spend a lot of money also taking care of refugees and also getting involved in the peace processes around the region.
So taking all of those things into consideration, Kenya then has played big brother status regionally, obviously. And because of this, hand-holding in Sudan, hand-holding in Somalia, hand-holding in Burundi, like you said. So then all of these things, I guess it was serendipitous in nature that then, because of that status, other things came about. economic leg up here and there.
Exactly.
So then do you think that Kenya then bears a responsibility when things then now are starting to go wrong, like what we're seeing in Ethiopia, the constant unrest in South Sudan and Sudan? Does then Kenya have a responsibility to lend a hand towards making sure that things are kept at a dull roar?
A peaceful and stable region is very good to Kenya. Look at what we were just doing in Ethiopia recently. Kenya was moving into Ethiopia very fast. President Uhuru and Prime Minister Abiy were now buddies.
Yes.
Kenya was investing. Apart from look at Safaricom got a big deal. So, Ethiopia was now just opening.
Yep.
We are even looking at the role of KCB. Because
Kengen was already there.
Kengen was already there. So, a stable Ethiopia was good for us. And we were really moving in. Ethiopia is a big economy. So, it is in our interest. And we are concerned that Ethiopia should not go down the path that it's going. Uhuru needs to play, and he's playing already, the big brother. Talk to the Tigrayans and the Ethiopia, the various stakeholders to tell them, my friends, the more you fight, the more other people from outside. And quietly, I think there are other people who would want to destabilize Ethiopia. Look at the Great Renaissance Dam that is being built. Who would be interested in making sure that Ethiopia does not go? I will not say it here, but you know that. So there are other people. So as Kenya, we have assisted in peace building across the region. But to a fault, when we went to South Sudan, the diplomats were there signing on the dotted line that this is the comprehensive peace agreement. But we did not have the commercial people following us to sign on the dotted line for commercial deals. We are very poor at following up on reaping from the peace dividends in the region. And this is one area in which perhaps the government really needs to.
Right.
Yes.
Let's bring in somebody who's in government, the Principal Secretary for the State Department of East African Community in the Ministry of East African Community and Regional Development, Dr. Kevin Desai. Dr. Kesai, it's good to have you on the show again, unfortunately on video again, and yet you had promised to come in the studio.
It's the nature of work, The principal secretaries have to go and inspect work, and so I'm on my way from Mombasa, where we were establishing the progress we're making as government by way of transport and logistics sector, trying to promote that efficiency in terms of cost and time, and promoting that EAC intra-trade and extra-trade. And secondly, indeed, we were trying to look at specific value chains like the tea sector, government reforms to date, and the latest include the resolve towards attestation between tea exports between Kenya and Pakistan, which is essentially, technically, it means that there's a reduction in tax. But secondly, important to this is that we are fully integrated the export, the customs management system, integrated customs management system, which has greatly enabled the tea sector to benefit from great levels of efficiency and reduction of cost and time to export. And this is what we are trying to do, the value chains, in addition to opening up and launching and setting the foundation for 2 roads in Kipevu, as well as between Nyeri and Marika,
right,
which will greatly facilitate trade and logistics throughout the African continent. So indeed, lots of progress, very excited to be with you this morning. And indeed, the ambassador set the tone in terms of optimism and hard work and what needs to be done, and that inclusivity and development.
Dr. Desai, it's always good to have you. Hopefully one of these days you'll be in the studio with us, but we still appreciate the fact that you can join us. Some of the work that you're telling us you were doing in Mombasa yesterday was with regards to the Kipevu, and then just off what Ambassador was saying, are we taking advantage of the peace that we build in the region as a country? For example, you're the PS for East African Community. Are we taking advantage of the peace that we see around the region in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Uganda? Are we as a country reaping the benefits of this?
Yes, indeed. We considerably are personally and within the context of our sovereign nation greatly benefited from intra-trade and extra-trade. Kenya is the location for manufacturing and value addition. And trade. We are a trading nation. We trade across the entire continent. And our people, with their skills and capacities, travel throughout East Africa and beyond. So indeed, there's progress being made, structural progresses. But one of the most profound developments indeed is under His Excellency President Kenyatta as chair of the East African Community. We reinvigorated our overall effort to be promoting inclusive development. And what that means is essentially that, we would like to propel and transform the way we look at the free movement of people, services, trade, manufacturing throughout the East African community. And we are promoting that fundamental transformation by way of, even as we speak today, I launched the review of the Common Market Protocol, which means within the context of the EAC, the context of the continent, it's all about agreement, it's about consensus, it's about decision-making, it's about being able to appreciate that everything with respect to social, economic, and environmental issues will be solved under one roof. And this is what his resolve is, as His Excellency President Kenyatta, and the will of his government.
If I may ask, Dr. Desai, the problems that you encounter as you navigate these choppy waters of integration, what would you say are the three topmost issues that you are still having to contend with? Because we have a journey, we have a destination, and we haven't arrived.
Indeed, if you look at the top of my head, I'm losing hair, and also it's becoming white.
For a moment, I thought it was just a fashion statement.
It's all about consensus. It's about having this common vision under His Excellency President Kenyatta by way of having a shared and inclusive development, which means that every citizen within the EAC benefits by way of a pathway to trade, manufacturing, and services. It's also about self-reliance. It's time, within the context of Kenya's incredible development with respect to its 7 trillion economy, that we manufacture and value add as much as possible and reap the benefits of our hard work and resources to the maximum, which means that, we need to articulate systems of transportation, logistics, trade, manufacturing as an inclusive system, as an integrated system. But finally, it's about resilience. We are at an incredibly devastating time, not only with respect to the uncertainty that COVID has brought and the pandemic, but the shocks, the fragmentation that it's created, and the uncertainty. And I believe personally that it's about prosperity, how we hold on to prosperity. We re-engineer ourselves and build back better to achieve that prosperity for the partner states as well as the continent. And it's through the programs of the African Free Trade Area that we're progressively making a lot of progress by way of the East African community. But I'd like to inform you and assure you that indeed I can sense a sense of insecurity in the discussions so far. And I want to assure you that what is happening as far as the context currently is concerned, and which is the trigger for this uncertainty, indeed can be allayed by way of the legacy of protocols, frameworks, and structures that the EAC has embarked on, and that legacy which stands at several initiatives, which include, first and foremost, an agreement by all partner states towards a treaty. And what the treaty stands for and what it espouses, at its core, is a market-driven, people-centered community. It's not a trade bloc. It's about social issues, security issues, economic issues, environmental issues. It's about that collective, fully integral engagement towards our prosperity. And it's one of the reasons why we're progressive in terms of trade statistics and so on. But further to that, to further allay this uncertainty that you may have, is that within the context of the treaty, each member state signs up to various resolutions with respect to peace, governance, equity, the welfare of people, and this is enshrined in that treaty. Further to that, there's various programs and protocols and frameworks which include border governance, the inclusion of the youth towards security as a platform, as well as youth policies, the strategy on EAC and security, the protocols on peace and security, the protocols on EAC action plans to combat terrorism, the continental early warning instruments, the police chief cooperation organizations, all the way now going down to ministerial integration by way of ensuring that we have synergy amongst all forces and a collective responsibility by partner states as well as leadership. But there's also issues with respect to maritime and that cooperation that's ongoing. And most importantly, the political confederation, which hopes to promote good governance, democracy, strengthen electoral processes, promote peace within the continent. And the academia are fully engaged by way of the Nyeri Center of Peace and Research towards that policy movement. So what I'm trying to describe here is an ecosystem which looks at policies, legislations, regulations, standards in promoting peace and security. And what's enshrined in all these documents is that consensus and that decision-making which hopes to achieve, that environment which enables the prowess of Kenya's manufacturing and service sector and its sheer strength. If I take you to Busia or some of the border points, you find that we are a trading nation at heart.
Yeah.
And who's behind the trade? It's women. Women carry the trade. And so with all this in mind, and as government and the complex task of government of regulation and promotion of proportional engagement, we're trying to see to it always to engage partner states, and we are succeeding. We've come up with some good news, in the 41st ordinary meeting of the Council of Ministers, which I'll share as we go on.
Thank you. Let's take a break at this point, having a conversation with Dr. Kevin Desai. He's a PS in the State Department for East African Community in the Ministry of EAC and Regional Development. Also joining us in the studio is Ambassador Ken Vitisia. He's a former ambassador of Kenya to Burundi and a special envoy to the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. We're having a conversation about the state of the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes. It's 9:30. Kenya's biggest conversation continues shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
This is something people need to understand. Your money, my money, equals our money. We cannot have your money is our money and my money is my money.
The only way to live your best life is to create a balance between work, love, and play. The Adults in the Room is the only show on radio dedicated to educating Kenyans on how they can stay winning in life and in love. Text the word adult to 22840 to get the latest clips from Adults in the Room directly to your mobile phone. SMS adults to 22840. We Kenyans love a great time. What better way to have a good time than listening to the greatest music hits in town and experience a party like never before? From 80s, 90s throwback, reggae, R&B music, and much more. You sure will be bumping your head. Watch Party All DJs on Thursday at 10 p.m. and Friday at 10:30 p.m. only on KTN Home.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. Highs of 23 and lows of 15 today. 17 degrees and cloudy in Nakuru City. 25 will be the high and lows of 13. 13 will also be the low in Nyeri, where it's cloudy at 17. It will go to highs of 23. Eldoret is mostly cloudy at 18. Let's see, highs of 23 and lows of 12. Mombasa is mostly sunny at 29, highs of 32 and lows of 25, while we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions at 29 in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. In Kisumu, it's mostly cloudy at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 19, while we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions at 25. In Kakamega, highs of 28 and lows of 16. Looking into Kampala, it's mostly sunny, highs of 25 and lows of 18, and in Dar es Salaam, it's raining still, highs of 30 and lows of 24 forecasted for today. today. Johannesburg is sunny, getting warmer at 22. It'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 16. While in Lagos, it's partly sunny at 25, going to highs of 33. Heavy thunderstorms continue to pound in Kinshasa, highs of 30 and lows of 23. Let's look out into Paris, where it's raining at 9 degrees, highs of 11 and lows of 3. It's sunny in Beijing at 9, coming down to lows of -4. 11 degrees and cloudy. It's 11 in London today. Highs, lows, and current. 6 degrees, cloudy conditions in New York, highs of 9 and lows of 6.
Spice up your life.
It still continues in many parts of Mombasa Road. For example, we're seeing quite heavy traffic still outbound. That problem hopefully will be cleared off soon, and we might end traffic hour a lot earlier today, but it doesn't look like that in the present time. Jogo Road in and outbound traffic, all of this traffic has affected that entire Jogo Road circuit, and so we're still looking at that industrial area, Likoni, Lusaka, and going out into the city. Huru Highway through into the CBD as well continues. Looking a lot better on the Thika Superhighway. We'll be coming out of traffic hour on that road, at least for now, in a short while. Let's keep an eye on things, and hopefully we can keep things just rumbling and not crazy. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127.
Okay, so it's 25 minutes to 10.
Spice up your life.
But also remind you about Showmax, and you can get all the plans for Showmax. Showmax Mobile, you get access to Showmax content on your mobile device. Showmax Pro, it gives you live stream of various sporting events from around the world, okay? And then you get Showmax Pro Mobile, which gives you those live streams on your mobile device. Choose any of those packages and get onto Showmax. If you actually subscribe to Showmax today, you get 1 month free access extra. Showmax is also offering a free 14-day trial, and you don't need to get charged. Just visit www.showmax.com for more information. That's www.showmax.com for more information.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Right,
Spice FM, Nairobi.
About the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region. The conversation continues with Dr. Kevin Desai, PS, State Department for the EAC, and Ambassador Ken Vitisia, former ambassador of Kenya to Burundi, and a special envoy to the International Conference on the Great Lakes region. A lot has happened in the country and in the region.
Ambassador, or should I just refer to you as Your Excellency? What do you prefer?
Balos.
Omusedi.
Okay,
All
fine.
right. Okay.
Omusedi.
It is different from Omudadi.
No, it is very different from Omudadi.
Okay.
Yeah. And it is probably slightly closer to Muhongo.
Okay.
Yes.
Muhongo.
Yes.
Right.
You have very eloquently stated how it is we are held in high regard within East and Central Africa. But surely, we must have some Achilles heel somewhere. There must be things our neighbors complain about us. And you, having been an ambassador, you would be right in the thickest of it and you'd get to hear it. What are some of the complaints that our neighbors have about us?
You know, having been a diplomat in the region for a long time, I engage a lot with my colleagues from other countries within the region. I see we have narrowed down mainly to the EAC.
Yes.
And within the EAC, I'm seeing we have people who want to join because they're seeing something good in it.
Yes.
Somalia wants to join. South Sudan joined even when they were not even ready to join because I don't think they can be able to meet the criteria for the various protocols. We as Kenya are really pushing for DRC to join, and they want to join. So it is a good place that people think they need to belong. because the EAC is not really very political. It is more of economic and social development. But as I engage with my colleagues in the region, there's this feeling that there is some sort of sibling rivalry touching on jealousy. Some of them have been students in Kenya. They have seen how Kenya has grown when they are in turmoil. So they acknowledge one thing. They acknowledge that Kenya has grown when they were not at peace with each other.
Yes.
But they appreciate also the support that Kenya has given to them. Some of them went to school in Kenya. Some of them didn't pay a dime to go to school in Kenya. But then, as they have now come of age, they claim to have come of age, that means they have started to walk. They believe that Kenya needs to be seeded. Seeding means that you cannot have everybody playing the same game or running the same race.
Well, you can't be playing in the same position all the time.
You can't be playing the same position all the time. You need to be seeded. And Kenya needs to acknowledge that it needs to be seeded within the region. That they must give the region, some of the countries in the region some slack. You cannot expect Kenya and Burundi to pay the same amount of money for membership to the EAC, a subscription. You can't expect that. You can't expect South Sudan to do the same. They believe also Kenya, as a big brother, should also hold their hand in some of the development initiatives they have. I remember one of the issues that has really been coming up is the issue of these customs. We are talking about external custom regime. That is, things that come within the EAC should have an external custom. But then things within the EAC should be zero-rated. They have had a war with that.
Why?
One, Kenya has already got an industrial base. That's what they say. So anybody wanting to invest within the region will not choose Uganda, Tanzania, or whatever. They will choose an already established industrial base. So Kenya will be producing goods that they will sell duty-free to Uganda.
To the region.
To the region.
Yeah.
Kenya will not necessarily, many of the people, because we are at the port of Mombasa, if I really want to invest in the region and sell to Rwanda, will I go and invest in Rwanda? It is easy for me if I'm importing, to import, produce in Mombasa or Nairobi, and drive up country to Kigali. Volkswagen. I met the ambassador of Germany.
Yes.
In Kigali, and asked him, this investment of Volkswagen in Kigali, is it an economic investment or a political investment? He told me Kagame and some people in Germany are very close friends. And this is why this investment is here. Even the bolts we use to make this are coming from Nairobi. Most of the things that we actually come and put, this is a garage. He told me this is
just an assembly.
Yes.
It's an assembly plant.
This is a garage just putting together. Because he says if really Volkswagen wanted to invest in the region and make money, they will choose Kenya. So this is the reality.
So some of the countries then in the region are feeling that we already have a leg up. We already we are running a 200-meter race, but we are 150 meters ahead.
Yeah, they need us to tie one leg. They need one leg to be tied. But secondly, we must also not be complacent. As Desai will tell us, Kenya is selling less and less to the region. We are doing more of services, but selling less to the region. The region is also concerned that Kenya is selling things that it is importing as Kenyan products. And you know Kenyans how they are. These are issues that touch on our culture that other people are looking at. That a Kenyan comes and tells you this is made in Kenya, you have to think twice. Because it could have been made in China and branded Kenya, and a Kenyan is actually... So we need to look at our culture of how we want to deal and trade with our neighbors.
Dr. Desai, as Ambassador says this, I'm curious as to what you would have to say about that. If we're looking at a situation whereby the region might then be worried about the fact that Kenya is not selling Kenya, but then is staying in that position as chief custodian of the region at the same time. Can a balance be created, and should that be the position?
Indeed, I think that the ambassador Pelosi has, stated some of the concerns we all have as a nation at this particular moment. But on the other side of progress, we are trading increasingly more, and as Pelosi said, it could be part of extra as well as internally manufactured goods. There are moments of low, as Pelosi said, and recently, let me share an experience. Kenya indeed is a manufacturing high-value add country, and we have invested greatly by way of roads, logistics systems, the entire environment towards creating manufacturing resilience. But at a recent initiative with respect to our efforts as the government and the country with respect to our friendliness and support for other partner states where we're trying to nurture manufacturing to achieve the 6th development strategy of the EAC, which espouses manufacturing as well as value addition and diversification as its key strategic thrust towards partner state prosperity. This was delayed because at a meeting recently on common external tariffs, and this technically basically means, how we nurture manufacturing, ensuring that taxation is adjusted in order to promote local manufacturing within the EAC. There was no consensus. Kenya and Tanzania stood at 33% on the 4th band. Uganda maintained 35%, and Burundi maintained 30%. Now, of course, this concerns us, and indeed this is a bit of a low period for government. But we want to seek the support of all, because what happens within the common external tariffs is that most of this is instigated and provoked by manufacturers in each country, which don't see the bigger picture, together with civil society and government. Of course, government sees the bigger picture, but we're getting thrusts from different associations and companies within member states. And so one of the decisions we need to make today in this platform and conversation is that we need to have an all-out approach, which means that our private sector has to create relations with private sector associations within the EAC. We as the government, through our bilateral engagements and our EAC engagements, continue with the excellent work in terms of promoting consensus and development. But all have to be involved, including the youth and civil society, to create that appreciation and that strategy to hold hands and take one step at a time into greater levels of economic generation. And this is something that really is a key issue, a key decision that needs to be made by all the viewers today. That how do we all be involved in this time, this movement, this great political support towards moving towards common external tariffs and then securing and ring fencing the entire region of 170 million people. And as Ambassador said recently, we've got the green light today from the 41st Sectoral Council to include Congo, which is another 100 million people. Promotes a trade route which is unimaginable from the Indian Ocean all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Now, no one can argue that we don't have the potential to trade. Even if we make a toothpick, we'd be able to, sell to 270 million people within this context, but also trade upwards to the north and south. And so it's important. It's important that we all, as a nation, really make an effort to see how we build onto those relationships and deter this suspicion based on really factual information, statistics, data, and a growing strategy for growth. And this can't be done only by government. It has to be done by all stakeholders because we're all integrated. And therefore, when we trade, when we manufacture, and when we aim for such high heights of value addition, we all have to be collective towards our responsibility, our action, and our leadership. I think this will go away. This will go a long way
But PS, I believe that the toothpick needs to be made in Kenya or within the region, because we can grow our bamboo sector by making toothpicks within the region. 90% of our toothpicks are imported. So when you say that 100 million
What
more,
is this that causes the toothpicks to be imported? Is it for lack of the raw
It's
material?
a common
Is it-
external tariff.
It's a common external
It's a
tariff.
the tariff structure. How then do you explain that a trading nation 5,000 kilometers away trades 33% to the entire, for example, to Congo, and we only, as EAC, trade a meager 14%? How can that be possible in this time when we have so much in terms of our relationships? I mean, if I take you to Busia, there's no difference between, there's no border.
Yeah.
I mean, the communities interact, we're all together,
Could it also
we have
be
to question this.
Could it also be, PS, because of what Ambassador Canada mentioned earlier, there are other external interests and factors outside of the East African community that are also at play, that have a great interest in in this region? That also
Yes,
everybody
because-
else is looking at the region as an extractive source.
Yes, indeed, you're absolutely correct. Because I mean, at 1 billion plus people and 6.7 trillion worth of consumerism, we are naturally attractive as a continent for all sectors, whether it's construction, agriculture, etc., and so on. But what's absolutely critical is that we build an ecosystem with respect to a shared market, which means we need to address collectively fundamental issues like harmonization of policies, legislations, regulations, standards, building those road networks, which only stand at 5 to 7% throughout Africa, the ports and other kinds of key dedicated infrastructure, that coordination capability within the EAC. And towards that end, we're building a lot more institutional capacity. We're hiring more people, 64 more people, to strengthen that coordination capacity. But I think the ultimate issue here is that, and the challenge now that we need to address, is that it becomes difficult to implement policies, legislations, regulations, standards at partner state level because of sovereign issues too. And it's for that reason that we need to play a more collective role, a more engaging role, and keep sharing that larger vision, which is part of
if I may
everyone's
ask
DNA.
Dr. Desai, and also for you, I guess, as well, Ambassador, is still stuck on that point that, I understand the complexities in terms of coming together and getting that one tariff that will be acceptable around the region. But I'm still confused, not even confused, but I don't understand why it would be so difficult for nations as sovereign entities to make decisions on what you would then manufacture. Why would it be so difficult then to make a decision and say, this is what we are going to do, when we see other bilateral agreements between countries, for example? We see a lot of produce coming in from Uganda, for example, into the country Kenya, and they say we can sell this at a lower price, in a lot of times to the detriment of Kenyan farmers, for example, or other practitioners of agriculture. Why are those decisions so easy to make, but then when we graduate the conversation, it is then difficult from country to country to come about with a universal agreement?
I think one of the issues is the technocrats mean well. They have very good, if you look at their manuals and their agreements, excellent. Biggest problem, trust and enforcement. That's the biggest. The Tanzanians will
explain that.
So essentially, this is now moved from the realm of policy to politics.
To politics.
Okay.
In the issue of now enforcement, the Tanzanians, are Kenyans really enforcing what we have agreed? Do they trust that we are doing that? With our porous border with Somalia, are the Tanzanians trusting that what comes into Kenya is a common external tariff is enforced? So this is an issue that really needs to be looked into. Issue of comparative advantage. They need to go back to the drawing board and say Uganda can produce sugar better than Kenya.
So let them.
Let them produce the sugar.
Let us process it.
Yes, let the industry. Tanzania has a lot of hides and skins. Why can't we assist Tanzania to be the ones to produce the shoes? Let's have our cotton industry to grow. Kenya, why don't you, your river Texas and all to make the whatever. And then those industries that you want to protect, we'll have, Tanzania will feel that if we have a common external tariff against leather products, it will assist me. Uganda will say against sugar, it will assist me. Kenya will say it's against textiles, it will assist me. Let us be protecting against what we are already producing. Let us not just protect. Look at Rwanda. Rwanda was at the forefront and saying we don't want mitumba. And I thought that was a good thing. Why should the Kenya or the East Africa be flooded with mitumba when we can produce clothes for our people to wear? Mitumba, also shoes. These are issues we need to look at. 90% of East Africans, they wear clothes from outside. I know, Muga, you might be having an Italian suit. Although it is made in River Road, they'll tell you it's an Italian suit.
Ambassador has actually just told me that everything I wear is from River Road. But Ambassador, Dr. Desai.
Yes.
Let me ask the question, because I'm listening to what the two of you are saying, the commonality of understanding, and the enemy of everything we are saying here seems to be self-interest. Because,
well,
please go ahead.
Yes. So, this is extremely exciting what you're discussing, because, I get a sense that, you're facilitating support in terms of government policy and this structure of our engagement in terms of integration. Now, if yet another decision that we really need to make within the context of the progress we've made in this conversation is that we need to have a cultural attitude as EAC with respect to made in EAC, grow EAC. And this is absolutely critical because, as you mentioned, that the challenges exist by way of, trying to implement, trying to initiate areas. Within the context of EAC, there's a very advanced and modern outlook in partner state governments and the government of Kenya by way of even selecting sectors. Like, we're focused on textiles, focused on automotive manufacturing, construction, areas of leather. So we've already mapped out the value chains, which are interdependent by way of trying to ensure that we collectively focus on being competitive and being able to export into the continent. But here again, with respect to issues, with respect to challenges on implementation, the importance of allaying that insecurity by way of all the manufacturing stakeholders and traders, etc., becomes absolutely critical here to ensure that they are able to see and envision a much larger market. If you look at a typical business sector or a business trader or person, there are two things he wakes up for in the morning. The first is that, he has to have a clear sight of a market, which means that it has to be an honest market, which enables them to trade manufacturing efficiently and productively and innovatively, meeting standards and regulations and policies and so on. The second thing is that they would like to be involved in crafting their angle of policies, legislations, regulations, so that they're able to differentiate innovation and transformation into the market. So within this context, quite a lot is being achieved by way of trying to ensure that this basis of structures and mechanisms by way of the customs union and the common market are developing. Ongoing efforts towards the resolution and improvement of decision making. In fact, one of His Excellency President Kenyatta's pronouncements as chair is that we need to see how we promote greater levels of governance and transformation of decision making. But this indeed is a collective responsibility, and I really want to once again stress on that first decision. When we took up the chair, this is indeed an honourable role. It means that naturally we have to be painfully inclusive, but at the same time, an honourable role towards the development of the continent. And by doing so, His Excellency President Kenyatta is the chair of the summit, my minister is the chair of the council.
Dr. Desai, your line is really has really gotten bad, but we appreciate everything that you've been able to share with us, and we understand, yes, that from this point you're heading on to Tanzania for more conversations. We hope to host you again and look at then the progress that is being made in the region within the East African community. Dr. Kevin Desai is a PS in the State Department of the EAC in the Ministry of the East African Community and Regional Development. We also had in the studio Ambassador Ken Vitisia, former ambassador to Burundi and the Special Envoy to International Conference on Great Lakes Region. There's a lot that we haven't talked about of what's happening up north, Ambassador, and I think maybe we should invite you one of these days soon so we can just try and understand. So what is happening in Ethiopia, what's happening in South Sudan, in Sudan itself, and how is that affecting what could be happening in the region? Asante sana for joining us.
Asante, and I'm readily available.
Asante. So we conclude the conversation today with the day's proverb from City Muga.
Think of our conversation as you listen to the proverb. Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
Huwezi kumvalisha mtu anayekimbia viatu.
Yes, so let's talk about kumvalisha viatu ni lazima. Let them stop running first. Avalishwe viatu, apewe mwelekeo, aelezwe this is the direction you need to go to.
Even if it means tackling him and
bringing him down. Yes.
And force him to put on shoes.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us in this conversation today. Ambassador Ken Vitisia and PS Kevin Desai. Asanteni sana. Join us again tomorrow morning, Thursday, the 2nd day of December 2021. Now until 11 is uninterrupted music. And then you have Sugar and Spice coming in at 11 until 2. No, or do they go until 3? Until 2. And then you have Quatch from 3 to 7. And then the adults in the room from 7 thereafter. Have a lovely day, folks. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life